I hiding in a wardrobe like an absolute idiot. Let me back up. A month ago, my girlfriend cheated on me with this rich jerk named Gong Wei. And this guy didn't even have the decency to be embarrassed about it. He literally laughed in my face and called me a broke loser. Said he'd keep hooking up with her and dare me to do something about it. So I quit my job. Yeah, real smart move, I know. I started following this guy around like a creepy detective from a bad movie, trying to catch him with different women so I could destroy his reputation. Today I finally got my big break. He left his hotel door open, and I snuck into his fancy presidential suite and squeezed myself into the wardrobe. Then his girlfriend walked out of the bathroom. Holy mother of God. This woman, Lu Qingxue, was the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen in my entire miserable life. Long legs, perfect figure, face like a painting. She was putting on a dress right in front of my wardrobe, and my brain basically short-circuited. The air itself smelled prettier because she existed. Then Gong Wei knocked on the door, acting all sweet and lovey-dovey, bringing her a drink like he was boyfriend of the year. She smiled, took the drink, but blocked the doorway, wouldn't let him in. He played the perfect gentleman, backing off with his hands up. I'm sitting in the wardrobe thinking, well, this is useless. They're an actual couple. I can't expose anything with these photos. But then things got dark. Fast. She chugged the drink to get rid of him, and suddenly his whole face changed. That nice guy mask just melted off like cheap makeup in the rain. He shoved the door open and started talking about how tonight she wouldn't be able to say no because he drugged the drink. This absolute piece of garbage drugged his own girlfriend's drink because she wouldn't sleep with him. She'd been refusing even to hold hands or kiss for 2 months, wanted to wait until marriage. And his solution was chemicals. Real classy rich boy. She was furious, threatened to call the police, announced they were broken up right then and there. But he just sat on the bed with his legs crossed, smirking like a movie villain, bragging about how his money and connections made him untouchable, how the drug wouldn't show up in tests the next day, how nobody would believe her. Then the drug started kicking in. I watched through the crack in the wardrobe door as she struggled, biting her lip, trying to fight it, but slowly losing control. Her eyes went glassy, and she started walking toward him like a zombie. He opened his arms with this disgusting grin on his face. And that's when something inside me snapped. I kicked that wardrobe door open like I was auditioning for an action movie and came flying out screaming, "You animal! Look, I came here to ruin this guy's life with embarrassing photos." I did not expect to become a hero tonight. But there was absolutely no universe where I was going to sit in a closet and watch this happen. Gong Wei's jaw hit the floor. When he recognized me, he started to say something, probably another insult about me being poor, but I was already in his face. I karate chopped him right on the neck. One hit. Down he went like a sack of expensive potatoes. I grabbed shirts and ties from the wardrobe, tied him up like a Christmas present, stuffed a towel in his mouth, shoved him into the wardrobe, and shut the door. Poetic justice. Now he gets to be the idiot in the closet. I turned around, feeling pretty heroic, ready to say something cool like, "Let me take you to a hospital." I got about 4 words out before my brain crashed again. Because Lu Qingxue was standing there, half out of her dress, looking at me with those drugged-up, dreamy eyes, walking straight toward me with her arms practically open. The drug didn't care that the target changed. I saved the beauty from the dragon, and now the beauty was coming for me. Nobody trains you for this situation. So remember how I said nobody trains you for that situation? Yeah, nobody did. This goddess of a woman came flying at me like a heat-seeking missile, knocked me straight onto the bed, and kissed me before my brain could even boot up. My mind went completely blank, like someone unplugged my hard drive. And then, well, let's just say things happened. Multiple things. 5 things, to be precise. 5 times. Look, I'm not bragging. Okay, maybe a little. But in my defense, she was the one driving this bus. I was just a passenger who forgot where the brakes were. Fast forward to morning. Sun's blazing through the curtains, and I wake up with the most beautiful woman on planet Earth sleeping in my arms. No clothes. Just her, looking like a sleeping angel, with these long eyelashes casting tiny shadows on her cheeks. Her lips were slightly pouted, like a rosebud. My scalp went numb. I started sweating. I didn't dare move because what exactly is the protocol here? I couldn't find this chapter in any manual. About 15 minutes later, she woke up, watched her eyes slowly scan the room. Ceiling, messy floor, clothes everywhere. Then finally, my face. A strange man's face. You could literally see the stages of grief playing out in real time. Then the memories hit her. The drug drink, Gong Wei's creepy smile, and some random dude who burst out of a wardrobe like a budget superhero and then proceeded to have the wildest night of both their lives. Her eyes went red. She started mentally murdering Gong Wei with every curse word in existence. Then she turned those eyes on me, cold as ice. Who are you? Why were you hiding in the wardrobe? Are you a thief? Great. I go from hero to criminal suspect in under a minute. I sat up, took a deep breath, and explained everything. The cheating ex, the stalking mission, the wardrobe plan. Then I pulled out the photo of Gong Wei making out with my ex-girlfriend Ding Lan and handed it to her. She looked at it and started crying. Big, fat tears rolling down her pale cheeks. That absolute scumbag ruined my life, she whispered. Watching her cry like that, something weird happened in my chest. This overwhelming urge to protect her just hit me like a truck. I reached over, wiped her tears, and said in my softest voice, "Don't cry. I'll take responsibility for you." Smooth, right? Total gentleman moment. She shut me down instantly. I don't need you to take responsibility. Ouch. But I pushed it, because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment. I gave her my most serious face and glanced meaningfully at the bedsheet. As a man, since I took your first time, I must take responsibility. She followed my gaze to the sheet, turned the color of a fire truck, and looked at me like she wanted to commit murder. I said I don't need it. Now turn around. She threw a pillow at my head. I turned around like a good boy. Behind me, I could hear her struggling to get up, and I mean struggling. Her whole body was sore. And here's the thing. Even though I couldn't see her face, I could feel her death glaring the back of my skull. Apparently 5 times was excessive. She felt I could have shown some self-control. In my defense, have you seen her? I couldn't resist sneaking a peek when she was dressed. She stood there in the sunlight, hair messy, cheeks still flushed, wrinkled dress, looking like a rose covered in morning dew. My breathing literally stopped. Every magazine cover, every billboard model, none of them came within a million miles of this real, actual woman standing in front of me. "What are you looking at?" she snapped, face burning. "Keep staring and I'll rip your eyeballs out." Then, bang, 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 the wardrobe started shaking. All right, Gong Wei. I completely forgot about that guy. He'd actually been awake most of the night, tied up in there, listening to everything. All 5 rounds. The muffled rage noises coming from that wardrobe were honestly kind of satisfying. Lu Qingxue went white and grabbed my arm. "We need to go." Now, we bolted. Down the fire escape, through the lobby, out the front door, and didn't stop until we disappeared into the crowd on the street. Standing on the sidewalk in the bright sunlight, she looked at me with this complicated expression, grateful, guarded, humiliated, and something else I couldn't quite name. "Zhang Jun, thank you for saving me," she said, polite but distant, like a queen addressing a peasant. "I hope you work hard and don't stay at the bottom of society forever." And then she walked away. Didn't look back once. I stood there watching her disappear, then looked down at myself. Faded white t-shirt, cheap sneakers, total net worth in my pocket, 500 yuan cash. That was it. That was everything I owned in this world. My ex left me because I was broke. And now this incredible woman wouldn't even let me take responsibility. Also because I was broke. See a pattern here? But here's the thing. I studied antique appraisal in college. I know my stuff, ceramics, jade, bronze, paintings. I could recite textbooks in my sleep. And this city, Zhonghai, is basically the antique capital of the country. People find hidden treasures at flea markets and get rich overnight all the time. Had it ever happened to me? No. Could it happen today? Also probably no. Was I about to blow my last 500 yuan trying anyway? Absolutely yes. So there I was, freshly dumped by a supermodel, walking toward the antique street with my last few hundred yuan, ready to gamble on my education like every desperate college graduate before me. Then I spotted this old man shuffling down the road ahead of me. And I mean old. White hair all matted, wearing a coat so dirty you couldn't tell what color it used to be, skinny as a scarecrow. He was wobbling like a drunk penguin, getting worse and worse, until, timber, he collapsed on the sidewalk like a fallen tree. My heart jumped. I sprinted over, checked his breathing. Barely alive. "Wake up, sir," He cracked his eyes open and whispered one word. Hungry. Oh. He wasn't dying. He was starving. I rushed off, bought water and 4 meat buns, and fed him like a baby bird. The old man inhaled those buns so fast he almost choked. I had to slap his back to keep him alive. Kind of defeats the purpose of feeding someone if they die eating, you know? After demolishing all 4 buns, he let out this long, satisfied sigh, and his eyes came back to life. Young man, thank you. People like you are rare these days. I asked if I could help him get home or call his family. His eyes got watery. Turns out he was from Teeling, way up north. No kids, no family, wandered his whole life, and now all he wanted was to go home to die on his own bed. Poetic and devastating at the same time. Then he pulled out this tiny, filthy cloth bag from deep inside his coat. Inside, a handful of crumpled bills, the biggest one being 5 yuan. His entire get home fund was less than 20 bucks. Something broke inside me. I looked at his shaking, skeletal body, and I saw future me. 60 years from now, alone, broke, starving on a sidewalk. I pulled out all my remaining cash, over 400 yuan, and pressed it into his hands. This is all I have. I'm sorry it's not more. The old man froze. Tears spilled from his cloudy eyes. His bony fingers clamped onto my wrist with surprising strength. Young man, what do you do for a living? Me? I laughed bitterly. Just lost my job. Studied antique appraisal in college. Was heading to the antique market to try my luck. His eyes lit up like I'd set a magic password. He looked me up and down like he was scanning my soul, then reached deep into his coat and pulled out a small package wrapped in old oil paper. The edges were worn fuzzy from years of handling. He unwrapped it layer by layer, slow and reverent, like he was performing a sacred ritual. Inside was a pearl, peanut-sized, creamy white like the finest jade, and on its surface, a faint golden pattern that, I kid you not, looked exactly like a tiny curled-up dragon. This is called the dragon pearl, he whispered, placing it in my palm. Found it 60 years ago in a cave called Dragon God Cave, deep in the mountains back home. The elders said it grew inside a real dragon and absorbed energy from the earth for centuries. He paused, looking at the pearl with a complicated expression, like saying goodbye to an old friend. But my fate was too thin to handle it. Carried it 60 years, stayed poor 60 years. You've got a kind heart and honest eyes. You're the one it's been waiting for. The pearl felt cool in my hand, then warm, then weirdly heavy for something so small. I looked at the pearl. I looked at the old man's dead serious face. If this thing was really some magical treasure, why was he still broke? But it was his heart, his gratitude. So I squeezed it tight and thanked him properly. He grinned, showing his few remaining yellow teeth, patted my hand, and shuffled away without another word. His shadow stretched long in the morning light, and somehow he looked both pitiful and totally free at the same time. I watched him disappear, then sat down on a flower bed ledge. Completely broke. 0 yuan. Get a job? Earn 5,000 a month. Work 40 years and still can't afford an apartment or a car or a girlfriend. Die alone. Cool. Borrow money to hunt antiques? Too risky. I'd been fooled before. My mind drifted to last night. Lu Qingxue without her clothes on. My nose got itchy. A drop of blood fell out, landed right on the dragon pearl. The blood soaked in and vanished. Then my palm felt like I was holding a red-hot branding iron. The pearl started glowing. That little golden dragon pattern lit up like Christmas lights and started swimming around the surface of the pearl like it was alive. And then, I swear on my broke, pathetic life, the pearl melted into my hand. Just phased right through my skin and buried itself in my palm like it had always been there. Comfortable. Natural. Like it was coming home. Then information flooded my brain. The pearl was talking to me. Not with words exactly, more like downloading a user manual directly into my skull. Turns out the old man wasn't crazy. This thing was the real deal, and it came with 4 powers. 1. Treasure radar. Anything valuable within 3 meters would trigger a signal in my hand. Stronger signal equals more precious item. Basically, I'd become a walking metal detector for priceless antiques. 2. Skill extraction. Famous historical figures poured their souls into their work. Paintings, calligraphy, weapons, tools. If those objects still carried spiritual imprints, I could absorb them through my left hand and gain their actual skills. Touch a legendary swordsman's blade. Congratulations, you now know Kung Fu. 3. Storage space. The pearl contained a pocket dimension 50 meters across. A personal invisible warehouse inside my hand. 4. Upgradable. The pearl could absorb spiritual energy from treasures, and as it powered up, my radar range would expand and new abilities would unlock. I sat there on that flower bed, jaw on the floor, brain melting. Let me get this straight. I gave an old man my last 400 yuan because I felt sorry for him, and in return I got a magical cheat code for life that lets me find any treasure, steal skills from ancient masters, carry stuff in a pocket dimension, and it gets better over time? I was going to be rich. I was going to be unstoppable. 10 minutes ago, I was a broke loser with a nosebleed. Now I was basically a superhero whose power was being really, really good at antique shopping. Let's go. First things first, I had to test this thing. What if that old man was just a really good scammer and I hallucinated the whole glowing pearl melting into Mayan situation? I picked up a rock. Thought really hard. Store. The rock vanished from my hand. Just poof. Gone. Like a magic trick, except I was both the magician and the amazed audience. My consciousness split off a little piece and peeked into this gray, misty dimension inside the pearl. There was my rock, just sitting there in infinite space, looking very confused about its life choices. Come back. Rock appeared in my hand again. Instantly. Silently. Oh, my God. It's real. My brain went into overdrive. If storage works, then treasure sensing works. And if treasure sensing works, then skill extraction works. I could theoretically absorb Wang Shiji's calligraphy skills, Hua Tuo's medical knowledge, Tang Boha's painting, every legendary master who ever touched a brush or swung a sword. Their abilities were just sitting there in antiques, waiting for me. It's like the universe designed the ultimate cheat code specifically for a broke antique appraisal graduate. This wasn't luck. This was destiny being incredibly specific. I practically sprinted toward the antique street, and that's when my whole world changed. Signals. Everywhere. Walking through the crowd was like being a human radar dish at a treasure convention. Every valuable object within 3 meters pinged my senses like little fireflies. A rich lady on my left. Her jade bracelet was screaming premium quality. A businesswoman's gold necklace, small but real. Some dude's wristwatch, not ordinary. Even a random girl's tiny pearl earrings gave off the faintest little blip. I was walking through an invisible treasure map that only I could see. Then I crossed an old stone road, and the ground exploded with signals. Not one or two, dozens of them, coming from about 3 meters underground. Underground treasure. An ancient tomb? A buried stash? My radar worked through dirt and rock. I almost tripped over my own feet. This was insane. But I kept walking because, I couldn't exactly start digging up a public road with my bare hands. Then I passed a garbage dump and got a faint ping. Very weak, but definitely there. My eyes locked onto a disgusting old wallet buried under newspapers and rotten vegetable leaves. I fished it out with 2 fingers, trying not to think about what else had been touching it. Cheap fake leather, cracked corners, smelled like mildew. Empty inside, just some grocery receipts. But my fingers found a slightly thick spot in the lining. I ripped it open. Hidden compartment. 1 crumpled red bill staring back at me. 100 yuan. I was no longer completely broke. I was now slightly broke. Progress. I kept circling the trash area, and then, boom. A massive signal. The strongest one yet. Coming from a crushed cardboard box from some wedding cake company. I opened it and found melted candy. A disgusting brown sludge of what used to be chocolates and toffees, covered in dust and paper scraps. The smell was this unholy combination of rotting sweetness and decay. But the gold-colored candy wrappers mixed into this nightmare goo, they were absolutely blasting treasure signals at me. Candy wrappers are treasure? Candy wrappers? Weird? Absolutely. But I trusted my magic pearl more than I trusted my own judgment at this point. So I squatted down in the garbage and started carefully peeling sticky, filthy candy wrappers out of melted candy sludge, one by one, dropping them into a plastic bag. This is what rock bottom looks like, folks. A grown man, on his knees, in a garbage dump, lovingly collecting dirty candy wrappers like they're winning lottery tickets. And that's when I heard it. Zhang, is that really you? That voice. That horrible, familiar, nails on a chalkboard voice. I turned around, and there stood my ex-girlfriend Ding Lan, holding a trash bag, staring at me like I was an alien species she'd discovered in the wild. Tight floral dress, full makeup, looking decent. Though honestly, after seeing Lu Qingxue, Ding Lan was like comparing a flashlight to the sun. Of all the garbage dumps in all of this city, she walks up to this one. While I'm elbow deep in candy goo, the universe has a sick sense of humor. Her eyes traveled from my dust-covered face to the plastic bag full of sticky golden wrappers in my hand, and her mouth curled into the most savage smirk I'd ever seen. I never imagined you'd fall this low. You're picking through garbage now? Are you that broke? Thank God I dumped you early, or I'd be digging through trash right beside you. Just thinking about it makes me sick. I gave her the coldest smile I could manage with garbage residue on my fingers. Ignorant woman. This is called treasure hunting. There are priceless items hiding in places people like you would never think to look. Open your eyes and stop measuring the world with your tiny little brain. She nearly had a stroke. Treasure? Hunting? From garbage? You're picking up disgusting candy wrappers from someone's leftover wedding candy and calling it treasure? Zhang Jun, you're not just poor. You've lost your mind. You've gone completely insane from wanting money so badly. I didn't bother arguing. I calmly placed the last wrapper in my bag and walked away without looking back. But I could hear those high heels clicking behind me. She was following me. Apparently, my absolute confidence while holding a bag of garbage wrappers was so unsettling that she couldn't resist seeing how this played out. Good. Follow me, Ding Lan. Watch closely. Class is about to be in session. I beeline to the nearest public restroom with my precious bag of garbage wrappers, completely ignoring the click-clack of Ding Lan's high heels behind me like some judgmental metronome. I turned on the faucet, squeezed out some hand soap, and started washing those filthy wrappers one by one. As the grime melted away, the true color underneath started showing, and my hands began to tremble. This wasn't craft paper. This wasn't foil. This was a deep, warm, heavy gold that practically whispered, "I'm expensive," with every rinse. The kind of glow that doesn't scream at you. It just sits there radiating quiet, ancient wealth. Humans are hardwired to love gold. It's in our DNA. Cavemen probably fought mammoths over shiny rocks. And right now, my caveman brain was doing backflips. I laid them out on paper towels to dry. Wrinkled, yes. But even crumpled up, these things looked like tiny rectangles of solidified sunlight. Behind me, I noticed Ding Lan's smirk had gotten quieter. Her arms were still crossed, but her eyes kept darting to the wrappers. I could practically hear her brain short-circuiting. Could those actually be? No. No way. Who makes candy wrappers out of gold? That's insane. Nobody's that rich. Or that stupid. It's just fancy paper. Has to be. I could almost read the denial scrolling across her forehead. I packed everything up and headed straight for the nearest Zhou Dashing Gold shop. A big, reputable chain. If these wrappers were what I thought they were, I needed professionals. Why are you following me? Shouldn't you be on a date with your precious Gong Wei? I finally snapped. None of your business, trash picker, she sneered. I walked into the store. Gleaming display cases everywhere, gold necklaces and bracelets sparkling under spotlights. My dragon pearl radar went absolutely haywire, treasure signals covering every surface like a golden blanket. Ding Lan strutted in right behind me, practically vibrating with anticipation. Not the good kind. I can't wait to watch you humiliate yourself, kind. She'd already rehearsed her victory speech. I could tell. A young saleswoman approached with a polished smile. Hello, sir. What jewelry are you looking for today? Actually, could you examine these? Candy wrappers? I think they might be real gold. The words, candy wrappers, and real gold, in the same sentence nearly broke this poor woman. Her professional smile glitched like a bad video call. She was clearly thinking, is this guy okay? Should I call someone? But she was polite. She picked up one wrapper, and I watched her face carefully. The moment it touched her fingers, something changed. It was heavier than she expected. Way heavier. She held it up to the light, rubbed the texture, scratched the edge with her fingernail. Her expression went from humoring the crazy man to, wait a second, to, oh my God, in about 10 seconds. Ding Lan, who'd been standing there with her arms crossed and her told you so, face locked and loaded, started looking nervous. The saleswoman wasn't laughing. Why wasn't she laughing? Without a word, the saleswoman pulled out a small white ceramic crucible and a blowtorch. She placed one wrapper inside, and lit it up. The wrapper curled, glowed, and melted into a single perfect droplet of liquid gold. Pure, brilliant, not a single bubble or impurity. It sat in that white crucible like a tiny captured sun. "It's real gold," the saleswoman said, her voice shaking slightly. "Extremely high purity, at least 99.5%. This is hand-hammered gold leaf, old-style craftsmanship, thin as a cicada's wing. You almost never see this quality anymore." I felt like my soul left my body, did a victory lap around the store, and came back. "How much?" I asked, trying very hard to sound calm and not like a man who found treasure in a trash pile 20 minutes ago. "Each wrapper contains roughly half a gram of gold. You have 200 wrappers here. That's 100 grams total." She weighed them to confirm. "At today's recovery price of 1,000 yuan per gram. The total value is 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack a rib. My head was spinning. 20 minutes ago, I was broke. Completely, totally, pathetically penniless. And now I had 100,000 yuan because I picked candy wrappers out of melted chocolate sludge in a garbage dump. Plus the hidden 100 yuan bill from the wallet. Best garbage day ever. Now, let me describe what was happening to Ding Lan, because honestly, it was the cherry on top of my perfect garbage Sunday. When the saleswoman said, "It's real gold," Ding Lan froze. Like, full system crash. Blue screen of death. Someone pull the plug and plug her back in. When she heard 100,000 yuan, her face went through approximately 17 emotions in 2 seconds. Her knees actually wobbled. Her eyes turned red, not from crying, but from pure, concentrated, weapons-grade envy. 100,000 yuan. She worked 3 years at her miserable office job kissing her boss's boots, and she couldn't save that much if she ate nothing and lived in a cardboard box. And here was her, broke loser, ex-boyfriend, the guy she threw away like expired milk, casually pulling 6 figures out of a trash heap while she watched. Every insult she'd thrown at me 5 minutes ago was now slapping her across the face like an invisible hand. Slap, slap, slap. I didn't say a single word to her. I didn't need to. "Selling?" the saleswoman asked, voice trembling. "Selling," I said, without a microsecond of hesitation. "Sentimental attachment to candy wrappers? Not today." The money hit my account faster than Ding Lan hit on Gong Wei. 100,000 yuan. I stared at the bank notification on my phone, letting the numbers burn into my retinas. Then I turned to face Ding Lan, who looked like someone had just told her that gravity was optional. "See that?" I said, keeping my voice calm, which honestly took more self-control than last night with Lu Qingxue. From a garbage dump. 10 minutes of work. 100,000 yuan. I stepped closer, looked her dead in the eyes, and delivered every word like a nail into a coffin. "So the lucky one here is me. Lucky I saw what you really are. I'm done missing shots. My eye for treasure is razor sharp now. This is just the beginning. Hundreds of thousands a day. And you dumped me because I was poor." She stood there shaking, mouth opening and closing like a fish on dry land, trying to form words that wouldn't come. Her entire worldview was crumbling in real time, and I had front row seats. Then a tidal wave of regret crashed over her face. I could literally see her doing the math. If I just waited 1 more month without cheating. "Don't get cocky," she finally stammered, voice cracking. "You got lucky one time with garbage. You think you'll find 100,000 every day? You think I'm stupid?" Then she spun on her heels and practically sprinted out of the gold shop, disappearing into the crowd like a cockroach when you flip the light on. I watched her go and felt nothing. She was just a stranger now. A footnote. Yesterday's leftovers. I walked out of the store, and the reality hit me again like a truck full of cash. I stopped on the sidewalk and whispered to myself. I visited 1 garbage dump. 1. Found a 100 yuan bill and 200 gold wrappers. Made 100,000 and 100 yuan in like 15 minutes. This dragon pearl is absolutely broken. I pinched my thigh so hard it nearly bruised. The pain was real. The money was real. This was actually happening. First order of business, food. I marched into a breakfast restaurant and ordered a beef noodle soup and an egg. Both. At the same time. Living large, baby. When you've got 6 figures in the bank, you don't skip the egg. Fully fueled, I headed to the real destination, Antique Street. The place was exactly what you'd imagine. Cobblestone road, fake ancient buildings with swooping rooftops and red-painted doors, shops with fancy classical names like something something hall and whatever pavilion. But the real action was on the ground. Hundreds of vendors had spread out cloths on the street, covered in every antique known to mankind. Yellowed books, rusty coins, dull silver dollars, ceramic vases, bronze figurines, wooden carvings, prayer beads, jade pieces. A kaleidoscope of potentially worthless but maybe priceless stuff glinting in the sunlight. Vendors were shouting their hearts out in every regional accent imaginable, swearing their items were genuine artifacts from some emperor's personal collection or whatever. Buyers huddled around with magnifying glasses and flashlights, examining things like CSI investigators at a crime scene. There were even foreign tourists snapping photos and butchering Mandarin trying to ask prices. The whole place smelled like old books, incense smoke, and broken dreams. I started walking, slowly, letting my pearl radar do its thing. Stall 1, nothing. Stall 2, dead silence. Stall 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, nothing. Not a single ping. My excitement started deflating like a sad balloon. Turns out this treasure-filled, antique street was about 99.9% garbage. Modern fakes, artificially aged knockoffs, mass-produced junk designed to con tourists and wannabe treasure hunters. The vendors might as well have been selling dreams and disappointment. Getting rich off Antique Street? Not as easy as the legends say. Then, finally, around stall number 30-something, my palm tingled. A coin stall. Some skinny 50-year-old dude squatting behind a blue cloth absolutely covered in old copper coins. Piles of them. Mountains of them. Green with rust, black with age, some still caked in dirt. Strung on strings, loose in plastic boxes, dumped in heaps. The guy had a cigarette dangling from his lip and eyes that said, "I've been scamming people since before you were born." My radar lit up like a Christmas tree. Hundreds, maybe thousands of faint signals from the coins on display. Real antiques, but nothing special. Common stuff worth maybe 20 or 30 yuan each. But from his bulging burlap sack behind him, one signal blazed like a lighthouse in a dark ocean. Something valuable was hiding in that bag. I crouched down, pretending to be a casual browser, picking up random coins and squinting at them like a clueless newbie. "Hey young man, into coins?" The vendor perked up instantly, smelling fresh meat. "Everything here is authentic. Song Dynasty, Qing Dynasty, local mint, central mint. I got it all. Great condition, guaranteed genuine. 100 yuan each. Pick whatever you want. 100 yuan each." Right. These coins were worth 30 at best. And this guy was charging triple because I looked young and stupid. But I kept my poker face on. Even added a little hesitation, like I was really tempted. Picked up a Qianlong-era coin, pretended to admire it, put it down. Then I hit him with the opening move. "Boss, your prices are a little steep. How about 30 yuan each, and I'll take 10. The negotiation had begun. But I wasn't here for these small fries. I was here for whatever was hiding in that sack. 30 each? Deal. The vendor agreed way too fast, which told me everything. He'd probably bought these coins for 5 yuan a pop. In his mind, I was a baby lamb walking into the slaughter. Little did he know, the lamb had X-ray vision. I put on my best, clueless young guy who just started collecting coins last Tuesday act and started browsing his display. Picking up coins, squinting at them, shaking my head thoughtfully, putting them down. The whole amateur theater production. But here's something cool I discovered. Even these cheap coins had tiny traces of spiritual energy in them. Every time my left hand touched one, a wisp of energy got sucked into the dragon pearl like a tiny sip through a straw. So my slow browsing wasn't just acting. I was literally power leveling my magic pearl while pretending to shop. Multitasking king. I deliberately picked 6 totally average Qing Dynasty coins worth maybe 20 yuan each. Then came the performance of a lifetime. "Boss," I said, gesturing casually at the big burlap sack behind him, "I've only found 6 I like. Can I dig through that bag too? Same price. Sure. Go ahead." He waved his hand like he was shooing a fly. That sack was just unsorted bulk stuff he'd bought from some countryside scavenger. Hadn't even bothered to look through it properly. Big mistake. Huge. I plunged my hand into the sack. Cold metal everywhere, smell of old dirt and mildew. Coins tangled together in clumps. I kept up my, just looking for pretty ones, routine while secretly vacuuming up spiritual energy like a Roomba on turbo mode. Then my fingers touched it, thicker than the others, heavier, different edge, and the treasure signal, screaming at me like a fire alarm. I hooked it out with one finger and sneaked a look. Chestnut brown patina, spots of natural green rust, beautiful old surface. The front read, Taiping Tianghua, Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The back said, Sheng Bao, Sacred Treasure. My heart nearly exploded out of my chest. I knew exactly what this was from my university coin history classes. A Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, Sheng Bao, fold 10 large coin, regular script version. These are famous among collectors. The Taiping Rebellion was one of the bloodiest civil wars in human history, and their coins are rare because, well, the whole kingdom got destroyed. Good condition specimens are worth a fortune. And this one? Pristine craftsmanship, gorgeous patina, clean center hole, sharp lettering. Museum quality. For a split second, my brain whispered, just store it in the Dragon Pearl dimension. The vendor won't even know it existed. I shut that thought down immediately. That's stealing. I'm broke, not broken. I grabbed 3 more random coins from the sack, laid all 10 on the cloth in front of him, and said as casually as my hammering heart would allow, "These 10, please." Then came the moment of absolute terror. The vendor spread them all out and looked at each one. My soul temporarily left my body. If he recognized the Taiping coin, this whole thing was over. I'd have to pay actual market price, which I definitely couldn't afford, or watch him yank it away. He glanced at the decent-looking Qing coins, glanced at the plain ones, saw the slightly bigger one, probably thought it was some worthless, oversized local mint reject. Deal. 10 coins, 300 yuan. I paid via phone scan so fast I nearly dropped it. He bagged them up, grinning like a cat who just ate a canary. In his head, he'd just fleeced another clueless kid for 10 times what the coins were worth. Suckers every day, today's was extra juicy. Yeah, buddy. Enjoy your 300 yuan. You just sold me a coin worth more than your entire stall. I walked away at a, totally calm, definitely not sprinting, pace. Turned a corner past a used bookshop. Then finally exhaled. My back was soaked with sweat, half terror, half pure adrenaline. I pulled out the Taiping coin and held it up to the afternoon sun. The dark brown surface glowed warm and rich, like aged wine in solid form. Those green rust spots looked like tiny emeralds scattered by history itself. The calligraphy was crisp, authoritative, powerful. You could feel centuries of upheaval in those 4 characters. I found a real treasure. An actual, genuine, honest-to-God treasure. I was grinning so hard my face hurt. I headed straight to Boga's studio, a small antique shop run by Professor Deng Rong, my old university teacher. He'd just retired and opened this place because he couldn't sit still. The man was a walking encyclopedia of antiques, and more importantly, he was honest and kind. During college, I'd bring him my incredible finds, and he'd gently explain why my Ming Dynasty vase was actually made in a factory last March. 9 times out of 10 I'd been fooled, but he never laughed at me, just taught me patiently. I burst through his door practically vibrating. Professor Deng, he looked up from examining some jade pendant, which, by the way, my pearl told me was completely worthless, and smiled. Well, Zhang Jun, what treasure did you find today? Another Yuan Dynasty blue and white jar? Or is it last week's ancient jade again? No, Professor, this time it's different. I found a real one. He pushed his glasses up and chuckled. You say that every time. Fair point. I did say that every time. But every time before, I didn't have a magical dragon pearl fused into my palm confirming I was right. This time was going to be very different. This time is different, Professor. I placed the coin on his counter with the confidence of a man whose magic hand pearl had already confirmed he was right. Professor Deng picked it up like it was just another one of my weekly disappointments, grabbed his magnifying glass, gave it a lazy glance. 1 second later, his spine went from retiree slouch to military straight. The magnifying glass practically kissed the coin's surface. His eyes went wide. His voice was shaking. His hands were shaking. This man had spent 40 years examining antiques, and I'd never seen him shake before. He was checking every millimeter, the characters, the center hole, the edges, the patina, breathing harder and harder like he'd just climbed stairs. Taiping Tianghua, sacred treasure, he muttered, biting each word like it owed him money. 3 full minutes of silence. 3 minutes of me standing there trying not to vibrate out of my skin. Then he slammed his palm on the counter so hard his teacup jumped. You little genius. A Taiping Heavenly Kingdom regular script, fold 10 large coin. And in this condition. Zhang Jun, this find is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. He was stroking the coin like a newborn kitten, running his fingers over the surface, practically making love to it with his eyes. Inside my chest, fireworks were going off. So, Professor, how much is it worth? He tapped the counter thoughtfully, switching into professional mode. Taiping coins are always hot in the collecting world. This script style, this denomination, it's a prestige piece. At auction, with the right buyer, you could get 150, maybe 160,000. But auction fees are steep and it takes forever. He paused and looked me dead in the eyes. I'll give you 110,000. Sell it to me. I won't cheat you. You're my student. 110,000 yuan. I'd paid 300 for it. That's a 366x return. 366 times my investment. Wall Street wishes they had these numbers. But did I accept gracefully? Did I shake his hand like a dignified businessman? Of course not. Me. Professor, could you maybe add a little more? He nearly choked. His eyebrows shot up so high they almost left his face. You ungrateful little. 110,000 and you want more? Do you know what anyone else would offer you? I'm giving you this price because you're my student. He jabbed his finger at me like a disappointed father. Sorry, just asking. I said, giving him my most pathetic puppy dog eyes. He glared at me, then said with dripping sarcasm, Fine. I'll add 10 yuan. Take it or leave it. He was joking. Obviously joking. Deal, I said instantly. 10 yuan is 10 yuan. That's breakfast tomorrow. Thank you, Professor. He stared at me for a solid 2 seconds, then absolutely lost it. Doubled over laughing, slapping his knee, pointing at me. Your shamelessness. Did you learn that from the city walls at the antique market? Fine, 110,010 yuan. Consider it me buying you breakfast. Transaction complete. He lovingly placed his new treasure in a silk-lined box, beaming like a kid on Christmas. I stared at my bank notification and nearly floated off the ground. Let me do the math on my day so far. Started with 0 yuan. Gave all my money to an old man. Found in wallet from garbage. 100 yuan gold candy wrappers. 100,000 yuan Taiping coin. 110,000 and 10 yuan current total. 210,110 yuan from nothing to 210,000 in half a day. My blood was literally boiling with excitement. This was better than any drug, and I should know, since I watched Gong Wei's drug collection last night. I stepped outside into the afternoon sun, and somehow the whole world looked different. Brighter. Goldener. Like the universe had put an Instagram filter on reality. Lunchtime. And for the first time in my adult life, I ordered without checking prices. Boss. Twice cooked pork over rice. Fried egg. And an ice-cold Coca-Cola. I sat by the window, shoveling glistening, fragrant pork into my mouth while watching the crowds go by, ice-cold bubbles exploding in my throat. 25 yuan for a meal, and I didn't even flinch. When you've got 200 grand in the bank, you eat the EGG. After lunch, I strolled back into the antique street crowd. No rush this time. Just vibing. A rich man taking a casual walk through his personal treasure-hunting playground. Most signals were tiny, firefly flickers worth maybe a few bucks. Nothing exciting. Then I turned a corner and got hit with a massive signal. Lighthouse grade. Foghorn level. But here's the weird part. It wasn't coming from anything on the stall. The vendor's merchandise was almost entirely fake garbage. The signal was coming from the vendor's pocket. This dude, dark-skinned guy, maybe 30, faded gray t-shirt, squatting behind his stall, mindlessly scrolling his phone with a cigarette dangling from his lip, had something incredibly valuable hiding in his right pants pocket. That pocket was slightly bulging, and my pearl was practically screaming at it. This guy was sitting on a gold mine and didn't even know it. Or maybe he did know and was keeping it hidden. Either way, I needed whatever was in that pocket. But how do you convince a stranger to empty his pockets for you? Excuse me, sir. My magic hand pearl says your pants contain treasure. Didn't seem like a winning approach. I squatted down in front of his stall and started browsing his stuff. Silver coins, copper coins, broken ceramics, old books, bead bracelets, a whole buffet of mostly worthless junk. My radar confirmed it. Almost everything was fake, and the few real pieces were worth pocket change. But that pocket, that beautiful, bulging, treasure-stuffed pocket, I needed a plan. And lucky for me, I already had one. Time to put on the performance of a lifetime. I call it Operation Dumb Rich Kid. I picked up 2 random coins from his stall, a Kangxi and a Qianlong, and asked the price. The vendor sized me up. Young, plain clothes. Dollar signs appeared in his eyeballs like a cartoon character. Great eye, brother. These are genuine antique coins. 1,000 yuan each. Not a penny less, 1,000. For coins worth maybe 15 bucks. This guy had the audacity of a lion and the conscience of a snake. But here's the thing. I needed him to think I was stupid. So instead of laughing in his face, I pretended to negotiate like a complete amateur. 1,000 is too much. I know Kangxi and Qianlong reigned for a long time, so these coins are pretty common. I'll pay 100 each. Max. The vendor nearly bit through his cigarette, trying not to burst out laughing. I'd just offered 100 yuan for coins worth 15. In his mind, I was the fattest, juiciest lamb that ever walked into a slaughterhouse. The nearby vendors all heard this and started staring at me like vultures eyeing a wounded gazelle. I could feel them mentally waving at me. Come here. Buy my overpriced garbage too. We did the whole haggling dance. 500, 150, 300, 200, and, reluctantly, settled at 200 each. He put on his best, "You're killing me," face while internally doing cartwheels. But I wasn't done. Phase 2 of Operation Dumb Rich Kid was about to begin. Boss, I like doing business with honest guys like you, I said, laying it on thick. But your stall stuff is too ordinary. I need something special. See, today's my dad's birthday, and he loves small antiques, coins, that sort of thing. But it has to be a real treasure. Something worth over 10,000. The vendor's pupils literally dilated. This idiot wants to spend 10,000? On me? He practically teleported to attention, pointing at various silver dollars on his display, talking a mile a minute about how they were all super rare, priceless masterpieces. Everything was top quality, and once in a lifetime. In other words, that meant absolutely nothing coming from this guy. I examined each one, pretending to think really hard, then shook my head. These aren't great quality. The edges are worn, the patina looks off. Come on, boss. I know you're hiding the good stuff. You've got something special on you, I can tell. He almost broke character trying not to laugh at how adorably stupid I was being. Then, with Oscar-worthy reluctance, he reached into his right pocket and pulled it out. The moment it caught the sunlight, my heart did a backflip. A silver dollar. But not just any silver dollar. The front showed Yuan Shirkai's profile with Republic of China, Year 9, around the top. Normal enough. But the back. Oh, the back had a flying dragon above the grain stalks. Wings spread, claws out, head raised, absolutely magnificent. I knew exactly what this was, and I nearly had a stroke keeping my face neutral. This was a Yuan Shirkai flying dragon commemorative coin. Let me give you the history lesson in 30 seconds. In 1915, Yuan Shirkai decided he wanted to be emperor because apparently being president wasn't cool enough. The Tianjin Mint made these special coins with the dragon symbolizing his heavenly mandate to rule. Then his empire collapsed after 83 days. 83 days. And these coins never went into mass production. Only a handful of test strikes escaped into the world. Translation: this coin was astronomically rare. In good condition, they sell for 200,000 yuan minimum. In perfect condition, over 1 million. And this one? Clean surface, sharp details, no edge wear, natural, even patina. Near perfect condition. Worth at least 200,000. The vendor was sitting on a fortune and had no idea. He launched into his sales pitch, which was hilariously wrong. He said it was minted in year 3. It clearly said year 9 on the coin. He said it was made when Yuan Shirkai was crowned. Wrong timeline entirely. His knowledge of this coin could fit on the back of a fortune cookie with room to spare. I nodded along like a student in a fascinating lecture. Wow, really? Oh, I see. That's so cool. Then I delivered my counteroffer with the confidence of someone who definitely does not know what they're holding. It's pretty nice, I'll give you that. But regular Yuan Shirkai dollars go for 1 or 2,000 on the market. Yours has a dragon on it. Sure, but that's just a variant. 3,000, tops. The vendor nearly passed out from joy. He'd bought this coin yesterday from some farmer for 300 yuan. And here I was, this beautiful golden lamb, offering 3,000. 10 times his investment. He was probably seeing visions of beer and barbecue dancing in his head. He put on his, "This is painful," mask. 3,000? Brother, this is a flying dragon. A treasure. 4,000. Absolute minimum. 3,200, I said firmly. 3,500. Final offer. Deal. I paid before he could blink. He stared at the 3,500 received notification on his phone, grinning like he'd just won the lottery, and handed me the coin like it was a candy bar. Take good care of it, brother. Your dad will love it. Oh, he certainly will, my friend. Because this 3,500 yuan candy bar was worth about 200,000. This vendor thought he was the fox. He thought I was the chicken. He had no idea he just handed the chicken a diamond and called it a pebble. My hands were shaking as I took the coin. I shoved it into my pocket. Well, technically into my interdimensional pocket universe, but same difference, and walked away from the stall at a speed that said, casual. But meant, get me out of here before he Googles this. Once I was safely around a corner, I pulled the flying dragon back out and held it in the sunlight. Every single dragon scale was razor sharp. Yuan Shirkai's grumpy profile looked like it was judging me for paying so little. The coin practically hummed with history. I just sweet-talked a priceless coin out of a vendor's pants. I whispered to myself. I am the greatest con artist. No, treasure hunter. Who ever lived? I floated back to Professor Deng's shop on a cloud of pure dopamine. He was in there wearing white gloves, petting his new Taiping coin like a Bond villain petting a cat, humming a little song. The man was in collector heaven. Professor, I found another one. He looked up with a face that said, not this again. Another big find? 2 in one day? You think treasure hunting is grocery shopping? Just look. I placed the silver dollar on the counter. He picked it up casually, glanced at it, and froze. His spine snapped straight. His eyes went nuclear. He flipped the coin over so fast I thought he'd launch it into orbit, examining every detail. The portrait, the dragon, the edged teeth, the patina, breathing like he'd just finished a marathon. This is a Yuan Shirkai flying dragon? Good Lord, it's a flying dragon. His head whipped toward me, eyes wild. It's real. Absolutely real. Look at this patina. Perfectly natural, zero artificial aging. The dragon lines, fluid, powerful, deeply struck. The edged teeth, crisp, precise. This is original dye, Tianjin mint production. In this condition, the surface is practically untouched. The portrait is crystal clear, every dragon scale intact. This level of preservation is incredibly rare for a flying dragon. His hands were trembling. This man had 40 years of experience, and his hands were trembling. Where did you get this? Talked a street vendor into pulling it out of his pants pocket. I told him the whole story. His jaw dropped lower with every sentence. When I finished, he pointed at me and exploded into laughter. You sneaky little weasel. You conned treasure out of somebody's pocket. With that silver tongue of yours, you should be a hostage negotiator, not a treasure hunter. Then he held up 3 fingers. 300,000. This goes to me. 300,000 yuan. I paid 3,500 for it. That's an 85x return. 85 times. In less than an hour. Deal. I almost screamed. My phone buzzed. Bank notification. 300,000 yuan received. Let me calculate my day. Please. I need to see this written out because my brain keeps rejecting it as fiction. Morning balance. 0 yen. Gave everything to a starving old man. Hidden wallet cash. 100 yen gold candy wrappers. 100,000 yen Taiping coin. 110,010 yen flying dragon coin. 300,000 yen minus expenses, food, coins roughly minus 5,800 yen total. 510,000 yen half. A million. This morning I couldn't afford breakfast. I literally had to feed a dying man before I could be too broke to feed myself. And now, 12 hours later, I had over 500,000 yuan. Professor Deng was practically dancing behind his counter, placing the flying dragon in a silk box next to the Taiping coin, grinning like he'd won the lottery twice. What a day. 2 masterpieces in one afternoon. I haven't had this much fun since I retired. I stepped outside into the golden afternoon light and stared at my phone screen. 6 digits. For the first time in my 20-something years of existence, my bank account had 6 digits. Even the old book and incense smell of the antique street was somehow delicious now. Everything was beautiful. The cobblestones were beautiful. The clouds were beautiful. That pigeon over there? Stunning. This is the greatest day of my life, I muttered. I kept strolling, radar humming, hoping for more. Then I stopped at a stall selling old books and was flipping through a yellowed painting manual when I heard it. Zhang Jun. Come here, a cool, clear, slightly embarrassed female voice. Deliberately quiet. Unmistakable. I turned and saw a woman who looked like she was entering witness protection. Black face mask covering her jaw. Massive brown sunglasses hiding half her face. Baseball cap pulled low. Baggy gray tracksuit. Plain white sneakers. She was wrapped up tighter than a Christmas present, clearly terrified of being recognized. But here's the thing about trying to disguise a body like that. You can throw a tarp over a Ferrari, but everyone still knows it's a Ferrari. The tracksuit was loose, sure, but it couldn't hide the impossible curves, the tiny waist, those endlessly long legs, or that strip of snow-white neck glowing between the mask, and the collar like a beacon of perfection. Lu Qingxue. She could have been wearing a cardboard box and a traffic cone on her head, and I'd have recognized her. Mostly because my brain had permanently archived every detail of her from last night in Ultra HD with surround sound. She was standing there, looking at me, fidgeting slightly. The supermodel who told me to stop being poor this morning had come to find me. This day just kept getting more interesting. Why are you at the antique street? I asked, trying to sound casual while my stupid brain was already replaying last night's greatest hits in 4K. As I walked closer, her perfume hit me. That same sweet, cool scent from last night. And suddenly my knees felt unreliable. She stepped back half a step. Even behind the sunglasses, I could see her ear tips turning pink. She checked both directions like a spy in a movie, then whispered something so quietly I almost missed it. Last night. You didn't use a little umbrella, did you? Little umbrella. That's what she said. Little umbrella. The Chinese code word for what I think you already know. My face caught fire. You were kind of in a rush. I didn't exactly have time to. We both stopped talking. The air between us turned into a solid wall of shared embarrassment as every single moment from last night decided to replay simultaneously in both our heads. Under her mask, her face was probably the color of a tomato. Thank God for the disguise. Is it a dangerous time of the month? I asked, somehow managing to make the most awkward conversation in human history even more awkward. If not, don't take that stuff. It's bad for your body. It's the safe period, she whispered, voice smaller than a mosquito's sneeze. But I still want to. Just in case. Fair enough. She was a famous supermodel. Getting caught buying Plan B at the local pharmacy would be front-page news and career suicide. That's why she'd traveled all the way out here to a pharmacy near the antique street, disguised like a celebrity avoiding paparazzi, which is literally what she was. I'll buy it. Wait here, I said. I walked into the pharmacy. Disinfectant and herbal medicine smell. Middle-aged lady behind the counter scrolling her phone. Hi. 1 box of emergency contraception, please. She looked at me. Looked through the glass door at the suspiciously gorgeous figure lurking outside. Her eyes said, I understand everything and I'm judging nothing. Pure professional. She handed me the box, rattled off the standard medical advice, and I paid. I grabbed that tiny box, which felt like it weighed about 400 pounds of pure embarrassment, and headed for the door. Wham! The door flew open and Lu Qingxue crashed into me, grabbing my arm with genuine panic in her grip. Don't go out there. I saw him. My blood went cold. I followed her gaze through the glass. There, marching down the antique street like a villain in a kung fu movie, was Gong Wei. And behind him, about 15 guys. Huge guys. The kind of guys whose muscles have muscles. Black t-shirts stretched over bodies that were clearly built for one purpose, hurting people. Gong Wei looked terrible. Bloodshot eyes, face dark as a thunderstorm, scanning the crowd like a Terminator searching for its target. Apparently, after his chauffeur rescued him from the wardrobe this morning, he'd spent the whole day hunting for us. He'd even called Ding Lan, my lovely ex-girlfriend, always helpful, who told him I used to hang out at the antique street. So here he was, with a small army, on a street with one exit. Boss, there's a pharmacy, one of his goons shouted, pointing directly at us. Gong Wei's head snapped toward our pharmacy like a cobra spotting a mouse. Of course, his logic was actually smart for once. He figured we didn't use protection last night, So Lu Qingxue would need to buy emergency contraception today. Pharmacies were his priority search targets. In this pharmacy? One door. No back exit. We were trapped. His eyes locked through the glass onto Lu Qingxue first. Disguise or not, he recognized that body instantly. Then his gaze slid to me, then down to my hand, where I was still holding the pill box. In plain sight, like an idiot holding a neon sign that said, "Yes, we did exactly what you think we did." His pupils shrank to pinpoints. I could literally watch the volcanic eruption of jealousy, humiliation, and pure murderous rage travel from his brain to his face. Lu Qingxue, Zhang Jun, you disgusting pair of. His voice cracked from sheer fury, sounding like a broken violin being played with a chainsaw. Beat that broke loser to death. Grab that woman. Now, 15 meat mountains started surging toward the pharmacy door, grinning like hyenas. The pharmacist, a skinny guy in glasses, went pale as paper. Why you can't come in here? I'll call the police. Call them, Gong Wei screamed. He'd gone completely nuclear. Let's see if the cops get here before I demolish your shop. I had about 3 seconds to think. 15 guys. One door. Lu Qingxue behind me. No way she could outrun these thugs in sneakers, let alone if they blocked the exit. But if I went out there and drew them away from the pharmacy, I shoved the pill box into her hand. I'll lead them away. You run. Behind those ridiculous, oversized sunglasses, something shifted in her eyes. Fear, worry, and something softer that I didn't have time to analyze. Be careful, she said quietly. Her voice was trembling. I took a breath, slammed the glass door open, and stepped out to face 15 gorillas and one psychopath. Gong Wei, I shouted loud enough to turn every head on the street. If you're a man, leave the woman alone. And don't trash someone's business. You have a problem with me? Let's settle it out here. Heroic? Sure. Smart? Absolutely not. But hey, I had $500,000 in the bank and a magic pearl in my hand. If I was going to die, at least I was dying rich. Come on then. Let's see what you've got. Gong Wei's face was twitching like a broken screen, but he pulled his goons back to form a nice little semicircle of death outside the pharmacy door. I took a deep breath, clenched my fists, and walked out. 15 professional face rearrangers versus 1 antique studies graduate. The math was not in my favor. Destroy him, Gong Wei screamed. They came at me like a pack of hungry wolves. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm some martial arts master. I'm a decent fighter. I've been in scraps before, but this was 15 guys whose literal job description was hurt people for money. I covered my head and tried to dodge, block, counter, basically survival mode. A fist crushed into my ribs. Lightning bolt of pain. A boot slammed my shin. I stumbled. More hits on my back, my shoulders, everywhere. I bit down so hard my teeth almost cracked, tasting blood in my mouth, vision going blurry. But I kept one thought burning in my brain. Draw them away. Give Lu Qingxue time to escape. I asked that all you've got. You pack of Gong Wei's lapdogs? I screamed, deliberately making them angrier. Then I did something incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. I shoulder charged through a gap in the circle and sprinted down the antique street. Well, sprinted is generous. More like aggressively limped at high speed. Get him. Break his legs. Gong Wei was hopping mad behind me. Back at the pharmacy, Lu Qingxue was watching through the glass door, watching me get pummeled and still running. Later she told me her heart felt like it was being crushed. Her eyes fogged up with tears. This broke nobody she dismissed that morning was getting beaten bloody to buy her an escape route. That apparently made an impression, but I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that my lungs were on fire, my ribs felt like shattered glass, and 15 angry men were getting closer. Then I saw it. A street stall selling old weapons. Rusty swords, spearheads, random armor pieces scattered across a cloth. The vendor had already fled in terror, and in the corner of that stall, tossed aside like garbage, a spear, almost 2 meters long, blackened wood handle, iron tip covered in so much rust it looked like a tetanus delivery system. The thing looked like absolute junk, like someone stole it from a low-budget movie set and forgot to return it. But my dragon pearl? My dragon pearl went insane. The strongest treasure signal I'd felt all day. Stronger than the gold wrappers, stronger than the coins, stronger than anything. My palm was practically vibrating. No time to think. I lunged, grabbed the spear. Holy cow, this thing was heavy, 20, 30 pounds at least. Cold, rough, ancient. The moment my fingers wrapped around that shaft, the dragon pearl in my palm turned scorching hot, and a message exploded in my brain like a pop-up notification from God. Spiritual imprint detected. Divine spear, Li Shuwen. Extract skills, Li Shuwen. The name tickled something in my memory from history class, but with 15 guys about to reorganize my skeleton, I didn't exactly have time to Google it. Extract, I mentally screamed. Boom. My brain detonated. An avalanche of images, feelings, and muscle memories crashed into my consciousness like a tsunami. I saw a short, wiry old man with eyes like lightning, standing in a courtyard, his spear moving so fast it blurred, striking like a dragon, impenetrable, unstoppable. I felt the technique. How to twist every ounce of power from your entire body through your waist, through your hips, and channel it all into one single devastating point. I understood the fighting philosophy. Get close, hit hard, break through defense with overwhelming force, destroy complexity with simplicity. Bajiquan, the 8 extremes fist. Liuha, great spear, the 6 harmonies spear technique. And the man behind them, Li Shuwen, 1862 to 1934, the legendary, divine spear of Tsangzhou, the martial arts goat of the late Qing dynasty. This man had fought his entire life and never lost a single fight. He once challenged Yuan Shirkai's bodyguard commander with a spear. He skewered a Japanese martial artist who disrespected Chinese fighting. He was so deadly that people said his punches never needed a second hit. Hard fist needs no second strike. Divine spear Li Shuwen. All of his knowledge, decades of perfected combat technique, the muscle memory of 1,000 fights, the instincts of a man who spent 70 years turning his body into a weapon. All of it downloaded into me in approximately 1 second. Time froze. When it unfroze, I was a different person. My eyes, which had been unfocused and panicky 5 seconds ago, were now sharp as eagle talons. Calm as still water. But underneath that calm, a furnace of battle-hardened fury that could melt steel. I was still wearing the same bloody, dusty clothes. Still had the same bruised face. But the way I stood, something had fundamentally shifted. I radiated danger the way a bonfire radiates heat. Huh, you picked up a rusty stick? That'll help. Lie down, boy. The first attacker was Ah Biao, Gong Wei's personal driver/bodyguard. 6'3", built like a refrigerator made of angry meat. His fist came at my face like a cannonball, whistling through the air with enough force to shatter bone. Old me would have eaten that punch, and probably my own teeth along with it. Knew me? I dropped the spear. Too heavy, too rusty, too likely to actually kill someone, and I wasn't trying to catch a murder charge on my best financial day ever. Instead, I used what Li Shuwen had given me. My feet shifted, one tiny step that looked simple but was executed at inhuman speed. Ah Biao's sledgehammer fist sailed past my ear, hitting nothing but air. And suddenly I was inside his guard, right against his chest, close enough to smell his lunch. Bajiquan, close-range combat. Body-to-body destruction. The lamb had become the lion. Mountain-leaning strike. The words came out of my mouth before my brain even registered them. My shoulder dropped, my waist twisted, my hips drove forward, and every single ounce of force in my body compressed into one point. My shoulder, which I rammed into Ah Biao's chest like a battering ram made of pure rage. The sound was magnificent, like a car hitting a watermelon. This man, 6'3", 220 pounds of premium beef, went airborne. His feet left the ground. He flew backward, crashed into 2 of his buddies, and all 3 went down in a pile of tangled limbs and broken pride. Ah Biao was coughing up blood, multiple ribs snapped like breadsticks, screaming on the ground. One hit. One. Every single thug froze. Their brains couldn't process what they'd just witnessed. Their toughest guy, their best fighter, had just been launched like a human cannonball by the skinny kid they'd been beating up 30 seconds ago. But I wasn't done. Oh no, Li Shuwen didn't do. Pauses. I became a tornado. Supporting hammer strike. Descending dragon. Crouching tiger. Mountain-splitting palm. Exploring horse palm. Tiger embrace. Every legendary Bajiquan technique flowed out of me like I'd been practicing them for 50 years instead of 5 seconds. I wove through them like a ghost, and every time I touched someone, something broke. Arms, legs, ribs. The snapping sounds were like a symphony of bad decisions. These guys were tough, sure, street fighting tough, brawler tough, but against a man carrying the complete combat experience of the greatest martial artist of the early 20th century, they were baby deer fighting a wood chipper. Less than 60 seconds. That's all it took. Bang, bang, bang. Crack, crack, crack. 15 men, sprawled across the cobblestones like fallen bowling pins, hugging broken arms, clutching shattered legs. Not a single one standing. The street sounded like a hospital ward, just moaning and whimpering everywhere. The entire antique street went silent. Every single person watching, vendors, buyers, tourists, everyone, stood there with their jaws on the floor. I could practically hear their collective brain buffering. What just happened? That kid was getting beaten bloody and running. Then he touched a rusty stick and turned into Bruce Lee's angry grandfather? Over by the pharmacy, Lu Qingxue had ripped off her sunglasses and mask, revealing that devastating face to the entire street, but she didn't even notice. She was too busy staring at me with her hand pressed over her open mouth, eyes the size of dinner plates. Later she described what she felt in that moment as her heart being struck by a hammer. Her pulse went crazy. Her breathing went haywire. She was watching me move. Through those fighters like a war god from an ancient painting, all precision violence and cold focus, and something inside her chest was doing things she absolutely did not authorize. He's broke, but he can fight like that? Meanwhile, Gong Wei looked like a wax figure of himself. His victory smirk had been replaced by the expression of a man watching his own funeral. His legs were shaking so badly his knees were knocking together. 15 of his best fighters, his entire squad, were crying on the ground, and I was turning to face him. I walked toward him slowly, each step deliberate, not rushing, just approaching, like a lion that knows the gazelle has nowhere to run. Don't come near me. His voice cracked into a squeal. My dad is Gong Jinshan. He's worth billions. If you touch me, you'll regret it. You'll die. Ah, yes. The classic, my daddy is rich, defense. Truly the battle cry of a warrior. I stopped right in front of him. Same height. Very different energy. Gong Wei, I said, voice cold enough to freeze the sun, you stole my girlfriend. And I only slept with your ex-girlfriend. Technically, you should be the one I'm getting revenge on. I let that sink in. But instead of being grateful, you brought 15 guys to beat me up in broad daylight. I. His lips were vibrating like a broken engine. Nothing useful was coming out. Consider this your first warning. My left hand shot out like a cobra, grabbed his collar, and lifted him off the ground. His expensive shoes dangled in the air. Slap, 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 slap. For perfectly calibrated slaps echoed down the silent street like gunshots. Not hard enough to cause brain damage. Li Shuan's combat knowledge included incredible precision, but hard enough to make his ancestors feel it. His head ping-ponged left, right, like one of those desk toys. For bloody teeth flew out of his mouth and clinked onto the cobblestones like loose change. I pulled him close and whispered, next time you come for me, or ever bother Lu Qingxue again. I glanced at the field of broken bodies around us. That I will beat you to death. Literally. Not figuratively. Literally. Then I dropped him like a bag of wet laundry and kicked him once in the stomach for dessert. He curled up like a shrimp, crying, snot and blood everywhere. The big, scary, rich boy, whimpering on the ground with 4 fewer teeth than he started the day with. No more threats. No more bravado. Just pure, distilled fear. I turned and walked toward the pharmacy. Steady steps. Unhurried. Lu Qingxue was still standing there, completely frozen, staring at me with an expression that contained approximately 47 different emotions, none of which she seemed to understand. Shock, relief, gratitude, fear, and something new, something warm and electric that was growing in her chest faster than she could process it. The sunlight caught me as I walked toward her, giving me what I can only imagine was a pretty dramatic golden silhouette. Clothes messed up, blood on my face, bruises forming, but standing tall, calm, and completely in control. 12 hours ago, I was a broke, heartbroken loser hiding in a wardrobe. Now I had 500,000 yuan in the bank. The combat skills of China's greatest martial arts master downloaded into my muscles, and the most beautiful woman in the country was looking at me like she was seeing me for the very first time. Not bad for a Tuesday. I walked up to Lu Qingxue, took her trembling, ice-cold hand, and said the smoothest thing I could think of, let's go. I'll walk you back. Like I hadn't just turned 15 men into a modern art installation of broken bones and regret. She blushed so hard I could feel the heat radiating off her face. But, and this is the important part, she didn't pull her hand away. She let me hold it. We walked through the crowd of shell-shocked spectators like we were strolling through a park on a Sunday afternoon. Once we turned the corner and the noise faded, she looked at me with those gorgeous worried eyes and asked, "Why didn't you fight back from the beginning? You wouldn't have gotten hurt." Excellent question. Obviously, the real answer was, because I didn't have kung fu until I grabbed a rusty spear 60 seconds ago, but I couldn't exactly say that. So I put on my most mysterious, brooding face and said, "Family tradition. This fighting technique can't be used unless it's life or death. Every strike cripples or kills. Using it carelessly would bring enormous trouble." She bought it completely. I am a genius. She wanted to take me to the hospital, but I declined. Thanks to Li Shuwen's downloaded knowledge, I knew my injuries were all surface level. Plus, Bajiquan came with its own built-in recovery massage techniques and breathing exercises. Full-service martial art, that one. 5 stars. "I drove here," she said, pointing at, oh sweet mother of luxury, a red Maserati Levant sitting on the curb like a spaceship that had landed in the wrong neighborhood. "Perfect," I said immediately. "Then you can drive me home." Shameless? Absolutely. But I wasn't ready for this moment to end. She hesitated, blushed again, and said, "Okay." I slid into the passenger seat and was immediately wrapped in soft leather, quiet luxury, and her intoxicating perfume filling the enclosed space. My brain started playing the highlight reel from last night again. That fragrance was basically a trigger button for inappropriate memories at this point. She drove smoothly, soft music playing. I pretended to nap, but was actually hyper-aware of every tiny glance she snuck at me. I could feel her looking at my profile, lingering on the bruises and cuts, and I knew. Her heart was doing that fluttery thing. Then we pulled into my neighborhood, and reality slapped us both. My apartment complex looked like it had been built during a war and never renovated after. Peeling paint, dark hallways, wires crisscrossing the sky like a spider's web drawn by a drunk spider. Potholes everywhere. Her cherry-red Maserati sitting in this wasteland was like parking a diamond ring in a dumpster. A few old folks sitting outside stopped mid-conversation to stare at this spaceship that had just landed in their world. She parked. Engine off. Silence. Her fingers fidgeted on the steering wheel. She looked at me. The look said, "You can get out now." I unbuckled my seatbelt. Did not get out. Instead, I turned to face her, close enough to count her eyelashes, her scent practically making me dizzy, and unleashed my most shameless line yet. "Want to come up? Have some water?" Her face went from pink to red to crimson to a color scientists haven't named yet. Like a peach that got embarrassed about being a peach. That's not appropriate. Her voice was barely a whisper. "What's inappropriate about it?" I grinned. "We already, slept together. That was an accident." She glared at me, but the glare had zero conviction because her entire face was on fire and her brain was clearly replaying the same highlights mine was. I backed off before she actually combusted. "Come on, let's go." She bit her lip, looked at me, looked away, looked back, then found the excuse she needed. I'll come up and help you. Rub medicine on your injuries." That was the flimsiest excuse in the history of excuses, and she knew it was flimsy, and I knew she knew, and she knew I knew she knew. But we both pretended it was totally legitimate. I took her hand again as we walked toward my building. Her fingers stiffened for a second, then relaxed. She was letting me hold her hand. Twice in one day. Progress. Then came the bonus entertainment. On the third-floor stairwell, we ran into Wang Lei, this electrician who lived in my building. Made about $7,000 a month, which in this neighborhood made him practically royalty. He'd always looked down on me and my 5,000 yuan salary with this annoying, "I'm poor, but at least I'm not as poor as you" attitude. When I'd broken up with Ding Lan, this guy had the nerve to pat my shoulder and say, "Bro, don't be sad. Guys like us are too broke for girlfriends anyway. At least you gotta sleep with her, right? Count your blessings." The smugness that was dripping off that man could have filled a swimming pool. So imagine, his face when he saw me climbing the stairs, hand in hand with Lu Qingxue. Even bundled up in her disguise, in the dim hallway light, her beauty was nuclear. Those eyes, that nose, those lips, that skin, that figure that no amount of baggy clothing could hide. Wang Lei's brain crashed harder than a computer running Windows Vista. His jaw dropped. His garbage bag nearly hit the floor. His eyes went so wide I was worried they'd roll out of his skull. You could literally see the thought process. That's not human. That's an angel. She's 1,000 times prettier than his ex. She's blushing. She's holding his hand. She's going up to his apartment. With him. The broke, unemployed, recently dumped loser I, comforted, last week. How? I gave him the world's most casual nod, just a little chin lift, sup bro, and walked right past him with my goddess. Up the stairs, to my crappy apartment. I unlocked my peeling door. We stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind us. Wang Lei was still standing on the staircase, frozen, holding his garbage bag, having a complete existential crisis. 7,000 a month, and he couldn't get a girl to look at him twice. I was unemployed, living in a shoebox, and I'd just brought home the most beautiful woman either of us had ever seen. Life isn't fair, Wang Lei. But today it was unfair in my direction. And I was absolutely loving it. My apartment was, let's call it, aggressively humble, one room. All furniture secondhand. Mess everywhere because I'd been too busy stalking Gong Wei to clean. Dirty laundry on the chair. Wrinkled bedsheets. The kind of place that makes a dumpster look organized. And I'd just invited a supermodel inside. I'm sorry about the conditions, I mumbled, frantically trying to flatten my bedsheets like that would somehow transform this shoebox into a penthouse. I'll help, she said, and before I could protest, Lu Qingxue, top-tier runway model, Maserati driving goddess, was cleaning my apartment, picking things up, sorting my garbage, organizing my stuff. I watched her bend over to grab something and nearly had to excuse myself from my own body. The curve of her back in that dim light was a health hazard. My throat went dry. I grabbed a mop and ran to the bathroom before I did something embarrassing. We cleaned in silence. No talking, just the rustle of tidying and the swish of my mop. And somehow, in this crappy little room, with this woman I'd known for barely 24 hours, it felt cozy, domestic, like we were a couple who'd been doing this for years. Weird, beautiful, confusing. She opened the window. Evening breeze rolled in. The room looked, well, still terrible, but cleaner terrible. I looked at her standing by the window, tiny beads of sweat on her forehead, cheeks pink from the work, and thought, no amount of cleaning will make this place worthy of you. She deserved penthouses and luxury. Not this. Where's the medicine? She asked, snapping me out of my self-pity spiral. I dug out a half-empty bottle of medicated oil from a drawer and handed it over. I'll rub the spots on your back you can't reach, she said, all business. Thanks, I said, and whipped off my shirt. Now, I want to be clear. I didn't do this to show off. I did it because she needed access to my back. That's the only reason. The fact that I had decent abs and solid muscle definition was completely irrelevant. She stared at my bare torso for exactly 1.5 seconds too long before looking away, face going nuclear pink. My chest and ribs and back were covered in ugly purple bruises, a full-body map of where 15 guys had used me as a punching bag. I couldn't resist. You weren't this shy last night. She nearly launched the oil bottle at my skull. Say that again, and I'm leaving. Sorry. I flopped face down on the bed before she could actually commit violence. She sat on the bed edge, poured oil into her palms, rubbed them warm, and pressed them gently onto a bruise on my shoulder blade. SSSSSS. The cold sting made me hiss. Does it hurt? I'll be gentler. She immediately softened her touch. And then, oh man, then came the massage. Her hands were soft as clouds, warm from the oil, moving in slow circles over my aching muscles. Her fingertips occasionally grazed my skin in ways that sent electric shivers down my spine. And her scent, that maddening perfume mixed with the sharp tang of medicated oil, filled every breath. I almost groaned out loud, not from pain, from the sheer luxury of having the most beautiful woman in the country personally rubbing medicine on my back with the tenderness of someone who actually cared. Every single punch I took today, worth it. I'd do it again. Twice. She started making small talk to fill the silence, which was getting dangerously intimate. What do you do for work? Antique appraisal graduate. I hunt for hidden treasures. Freelance, basically. Her hands paused. I could feel the frown forming behind me. Treasure hunting isn't reliable, she said carefully. The antique world is full of fakes. Most people lose everything instead of finding anything. You should get an apprenticeship at a proper antique shop. Learn the real skills, build connections. That's the smart long-term plan. I could ask around for you. Oh, Lu Qingxue. Sweet, practical, gorgeous Lu Qingxue. If only you knew that I made $500,000 today doing exactly the thing you're warning me against. With a magical pearl fused into my palm. That also downloads Kung Fu. But I couldn't tell her that. So I just said, sure, I'll look into it tomorrow. She finished up, washed her hands, and announced, I should go. Get some rest. This was the moment. Do or die. Fortune favors the bold. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her, pulling her tight against my chest. Looked straight into those gorgeous eyes with everything I had. Stay tonight. Her entire body went rigid. Total system freeze. I could practically hear the Windows error sound playing in her brain. She wanted to yell at me. I could see it building. The outrage. The, who do you think you are? The, I'm a supermodel and you're a broke nobody with a terrible apartment. It was all right there, loading up behind her eyes like ammunition. But then she looked into my eyes, and the ammunition jammed. Because in that split second, her brain did that highlight reel thing. Me charging out of the pharmacy to face 15 thugs alone, getting pummeled but still, running to draw them away from her, then transforming into a one-man army and demolishing every single one of them, then walking back to her through the sunset like nothing happened. I could see each memory flash across her face in real time. Then I kissed her. No warning, no asking, just went for it. Don't, she started. Too late. Already kissing. Her brain made that beautiful BST sound of total shutdown, same as last night. White screen. No thoughts. Just feelings. And then, God bless this woman. Her arms floated up, wrapped around my neck. She rose onto her tiptoes and kissed me back. Clumsy. Eager. Electric. In a crappy apartment. In an old building. In the worst neighborhood in the city. Standing in a room that smelled like medicated oil and evening breeze. But the most beautiful woman I'd ever met was kissing me like I was the only man on earth. Today's final score started with nothing, ending with $500,000 legendary martial arts skills, and a supermodel in my arms. Not bad for a guy who woke up in a wardrobe. My apartment was, let's call it, aggressively humble, one room, all furniture secondhand. Mess everywhere because I'd been too busy stalking Gongwei to clean. Dirty laundry on the chair. Wrinkled bedsheets. The kind of place that makes a dumpster look organized. And I'd just invited a supermodel inside. I'm sorry about the conditions, I mumbled, frantically trying to flatten my bedsheets like that would somehow transform this shoebox into a penthouse. I'll help, she said, and before I could protest, Lu Qingxue, top-tier runway model, Maserati driving goddess, was cleaning my apartment, picking things up, sorting my garbage, organizing my stuff. I watched her bend over to grab something and nearly had to excuse myself from my own body. The curve of her back in that dim light was a health hazard. My throat went dry. I grabbed a mop and ran to the bathroom before I did something embarrassing. We cleaned in silence. No talking, just the rustle of tidying and the swish of my mop. And somehow, in this crappy little room, with this woman I'd known for barely 24 hours, it felt cozy, domestic, like we were a couple who'd been doing this for years. Weird, beautiful, confusing. She opened the window. Evening breeze rolled in. The room looked, well, still terrible, but cleaner terrible. I looked at her standing by the window, tiny beads of sweat on her forehead, cheeks pink from the work, and thought, no amount of cleaning will make this place worthy of you. She deserved penthouses and luxury. Not this. Where's the medicine? She asked, snapping me out of my self-pity spiral. I dug out a half-empty bottle of medicated oil from a drawer and handed it over. I'll rub the spots on your back you can't reach, she said, all business. Thanks, I said, and whipped off my shirt. Now, I want to be clear. I didn't do this to show off. I did it because she needed access to my back. That's the only reason. The fact that I had decent abs and solid muscle definition was completely irrelevant. She stared at my bare torso for exactly 1.5 seconds too long before looking away, face going nuclear pink. My chest and ribs and back were covered in ugly purple bruises, a full body map of where 15 guys had used me as a punching bag. I couldn't resist. You weren't this shy last night. She nearly launched the oil bottle at my skull. Say that again, and I'm leaving. Sorry, 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 sorry. I flopped face down on the bed before she could actually commit violence. She sat on the bed edge, poured oil into her palms, rubbed them warm, and pressed them gently onto a bruise on my shoulder blade. SSSSSS. The cold sting made me hiss. Does it hurt? I'll be gentler. She immediately softened her touch. And then, oh man, then came the massage. Her hands were soft as clouds, warm from the oil, moving in slow circles over my aching muscles. Her fingertips occasionally grazed my skin in ways that sent electric shivers down my spine. And her scent, that maddening perfume mixed with the sharp tang of medicated oil, filled every breath. I almost groaned out loud, not from pain, from the sheer luxury of having the most beautiful woman in the country personally rubbing medicine on my back with the tenderness of someone who actually cared. Every single punch I took today, worth it. I'd do it again. Twice. She started making small talk to fill the silence, which was getting dangerously intimate. What do you do for work? Antique appraisal graduate. I hunt for hidden treasures. Freelance, basically. Her hands paused. I could feel the frown forming behind me. Treasure hunting isn't reliable, she said carefully. The antique world is full of fakes. Most people lose everything instead of finding anything. You should get an apprenticeship at a proper antique shop. Learn the real skills, build connections. That's the smart long-term plan. I could. Ask around for you. Oh, Lu Qingxue. Sweet, practical, gorgeous Lu Qingxue. If only you knew that I made $500,000 today doing exactly the thing you're warning me against, with a magical pearl fused into my palm. That also downloads Kung Fu. But I couldn't tell her that, so I just said, sure, I'll look into it tomorrow. She finished up, washed her hands, and announced, I should go. Get some rest. This was the moment. Do or die. Fortune favors the bold. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her, pulling her tight against my chest. Looked straight into those gorgeous eyes with everything I had. Stay tonight. Her entire body went rigid. Total system freeze. I could practically hear the Windows error sound playing in her brain. She wanted to yell at me. I could see it building. The outrage. The, who do you think you are? The, I'm a supermodel and you're a broke nobody with a terrible apartment. It was all right there, loading up behind her eyes like ammunition. But then she looked into my eyes, and the ammunition jammed. Because in that split second, her brain did that highlight reel thing. Me charging out of the pharmacy to face 15 thugs alone, getting pummeled but still, running to draw them away from her, then transforming into a one-man army and demolishing every single one of them, then walking back to her through the sunset like nothing happened. I could see each memory flash across her face in real time. Then I kissed her. No warning. No asking. Just went for it. Don't, she started. Too late. Already kissing. Her brain made that beautiful, the sound of total shutdown, same as last night. White screen. No thoughts. Just feelings. And then, God bless this woman. Her arms floated up, wrapped around my neck. She rose onto her tiptoes and kissed me back. Clumsy. Eager. Electric. In a crappy apartment, in an old building, in the worst neighborhood in the city, standing in a room that smelled like medicated oil and evening breeze. But the most beautiful woman I'd ever met was kissing me like I was the only man on earth. Today's final score started with nothing, ending with $500,000 legendary martial arts skills, and a supermodel in my arms. Not bad for a guy who woke up in a wardrobe. The kiss ended, and she shoved me away. What is wrong with you? Sorry. You're too beautiful. I lost control, I said, putting on my best, scared puppy face while internally doing a victory dance so aggressive it would have won a competition. Her expression was doing that thing again. The complicated cocktail of annoyance, confusion, and something she absolutely did not want to admit was attraction. She wanted to leave. But she also didn't. Then she said the words that nearly stopped my heart. I share a villa with a colleague. She paused carefully, choosing her words like she was defusing a bomb. She lives on the 3rd floor. I live on the 2nd. No housekeeper. Just the two of us. Her face got serious. Recently, someone's been stalking us. Maybe an obsessive fan, maybe paparazzi. One night someone tried to break in. We called the police, but they never caught anyone. We've been scared ever since. She looked me dead in the eyes. So we've been looking for someone to move in. Someone who can fight. Someone trustworthy and reliable. Free rent. Just keep us safe, move heavy stuff, fix things around the house. Like a live-in bodyguard slash handyman. My brain needed approximately 0.0003 seconds to process this. She was asking me to move into her villa. With her. And another model. My mouth said, I would be honored to protect you. But my soul was doing backflips off the roof of the universe. She could say we were just friends, all she wanted. But let's apply some basic logic here. You don't invite a man who took your virginity to live in your house if he's just a friend. That's not how friendship works. That's not how anything works. But then she got all serious and laid down the rules, ticking them off like a corporate HR policy. Rule 1. You are not my boyfriend. We are friends. Last night was an accident and a secret. Tell no one, especially not my roommate. Sure, friend. Friends totally kiss like that. All the time. Very normal friend behavior. Rule 2. Do not sneak into my room without permission. And do not hit on my roommate. She's very beautiful and very sexy, but her standards are impossibly high. Don't waste your time. Very beautiful? Very sexy? Her standards are high? Who was this roommate? I nodded with the most trustworthy face I could manufacture. Understood. Absolutely. 100%. Then let's go. Now, she said. Now, like she'd been waiting to say it all day. I packed my stuff in about 4 minutes, which tells you how little I owned. Called my landlord, told him to keep the deposit and this month's rent, goodbye forever. He tried to be difficult, but shut up fast when I told him to keep the money. I dragged my sad little suitcase downstairs and climbed into the red Maserati, and the sheer absurdity of my life hit me like a freight train. This morning, 0 yuan, broken heart, sleeping in a closet watching another man drug his girlfriend. Right now, 510,000 yuan in the bank, legendary kung fu downloaded into my muscles, sitting in a supermodel's luxury car, headed to move into a villa with 2 beautiful women. If someone wrote this as a novel, the readers would say it's too unrealistic. She took me to a nice restaurant for dinner first. When the check came, she reached for her wallet automatically, obviously assuming the broke guy couldn't pay. I put my hand on hers. I'm paying. She looked at me like I'd just announced I was secretly the Emperor of Japan. I smiled confidently. Don't worry. I can afford dinner. I can afford to buy this restaurant, actually, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. After dinner, the Maserati pulled into Fontainebleau, a villa community that looked like it was designed by someone who thought regular houses weren't fancy enough. We stopped in front of a 3-story modern villa with a front yard and a back garden. She punched in the door code, and warm light and expensive-smelling air washed over us. The living room was enormous. High ceilings, Scandinavian design, massive white sofa, hardwood floors, art on the walls, designer, everything. This was a different planet from my old apartment. Then I heard it. Qingshui, your home. A voice like ice crystals falling on crystal, cold, clear, musical, coming from the spiral staircase above. I looked up, and my brain died. Walking down from the 3rd floor, in a white silk nightgown, was the single most devastatingly beautiful woman I'd ever. Wait, no. I said that about Lu Qingshui. Okay, she was tied for the most devastatingly beautiful woman I'd ever seen, but in a completely different category of devastating. The nightgown was modest in design, long sleeves, ankle length, but silk hides nothing. It clung to every curve like it was painted on, and those curves were. I'm going to need a minute. Absolutely criminal. Everything was exactly where God intended it to be, amplified to maximum settings. Her skin was so white it was almost luminous, like fresh snow or jade, practically glowing against the white silk. Her face was a perfect oval, cheekbones sculpted, nose elegant, lips naturally pink. And her eyes? Cold as winter stars. Her entire aura screamed, I am beautiful, and I want nothing to do with you or any other man on this planet. Bai Bingbing. The Bai Bingbing. The ice queen of the modeling world. The woman every rich playboy chased and none could catch because she treated all men like invisible insects. And she was also, how do I put this delicately? She was the woman whose photos and videos I had saved on my phone. Many photos, many videos. For those lonely nights when a single man needs inspiration. I had spent countless evenings staring at this woman on my tiny phone screen, fantasizing about impossible scenarios. And now she was walking down a staircase toward me, in a silk nightgown, in the house I was about to move into. I was going to be living with her, sleeping one floor away from her, sharing a kitchen with her. Lu Qingxue had said, "Don't hit on my roommate." Lu Qingxue had no idea what she was asking. Stay calm. Stay stable? With Bai Bingbing floating down a staircase in silk looking like a goddess carved from moonlight and bad decisions, there was absolutely zero chance I was staying stable. I was doomed. Bingbing, this is Zhang Jun, Lu Qingxue said casually, like she was introducing a new pet. I put on my friendliest smile and extended my hand like a civilized human being. Hi, I'm Zhang Jun. Hi. Bai Bingbing didn't touch my hand. She actually stepped backward, like I was radioactive. Didn't even look at me for a full second. Just glanced at my face, dismissed my entire existence, and turned to Lu Qingxue. He can fight? He doesn't look like it. Ice cold. Absolute zero. This woman's personality was a walk-in freezer. But her perfume still drifted over, and despite the emotional frostbite, my brain went fuzzy for a moment because she smelled incredible. Lu Qingxue gave me a look that said, "Show her." Fine, I sighed. We went to the backyard. Nice open space, grass, sitting area. Good enough for a martial arts demo. I walked to the center, took a breath, and became Li Shuwen. Supporting hammer. Descending dragon. Crouching tiger. Mountain splitting palm. Every Bajikwan technique exploded out of me. Fast, violent, devastating. My fists cut the air like blades. My kicks whooshed past invisible opponents. Even without anyone to hit, you could feel the killing intent radiating off every movement. This wasn't exercise. This was a preview of destruction. Then I spotted a wooden stick leaning against the wall, about 2 meters long, used for holding up flower vines. Not a real weapon, but close enough. I grabbed it, hefted it. Good enough. 6 harmonies spear technique. Go. Thrust, stab, sweep, wrap, block, parry, strike. The stick became a blur in my hands. It whistled through the air so fast it screamed. One moment, it was a viper striking at invisible throats. Next moment, it was a storm sweeping away armies. Then it dissolved into a wall of spinning wood so dense you couldn't throw a cup of water through it. The stick wasn't a stick anymore. In my hands, it was the weapon of a god. I finished with a classic reverse thrust, tapping the stick gently on the ground, breathing steady, eyes clear. Now, let me describe the audience reactions. Lu Qingxue, already seen me fight for real, but still standing there with sparkly eyes and her jaw slightly open, like she was watching the finale of the world's best action movie. Bai Bingbing, the Ice Queen herself. The woman who had looked at me for less than 1 second and decided I was furniture. Her cold, starry eyes? For the first time, they moved. The ice cracked. Not a lot. Maybe 1 degree warmer, but I saw it. Surprise. Respect. And a tiny sliver of, what the hell did I just watch? She grabbed Lu Qingxue's arm. The most emotion she'd shown all evening, and said in her refrigerator voice, but with a hint of actual excitement underneath, "Qingxue, you're amazing. You found a live-in bodyguard this good, and he works for free? Now I won't have to worry about anyone breaking in. Set him up. I'm going to bed." Then she turned, floated up the staircase like a silk ghost, and disappeared, leaving nothing behind but her lingering perfume and approximately 10,000 of my fantasies. Lu Qingxue looked at me apologetically. "Don't be upset. Bingbing's like that with all men. Not just you. But somehow guys still go absolutely crazy for her. You're not affected, are you?" I assembled the most sincere, honest, trustworthy expression in my facial repertoire. Me? Affected? No way. I'm completely focused on my bodyguard duties. Protecting you both. Earning my free rent. This villa is so nice. I'm just grateful to be here. She stared at me like I'd just tried to sell her invisible shoes. "Don't lie to me," she said, eyes narrowing dangerously. "I'm not a child." She's gorgeous, sexy, elegant, and untouchable. Every man who sees her loses his mind. You're no different. Accurate. Devastatingly accurate. But I maintain my poker face. She leaned in close, voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "Our situation stays secret. Bai Bingbing can never find out. Nobody can. Break this rule, and you're out. Absolutely. Total secrecy. You have my word," I said with the conviction of a man who absolutely planned to behave himself. "Probably. Maybe. We'll see." Night fell. The villa got quiet. Just crickets outside and the hum of luxury air conditioning. I was lying on my new bed, soft, clean, incredible, on the first floor of a villa. After years of creaky secondhand mattresses and cockroach apartments, this felt like sleeping on a cloud made of money. But I couldn't sleep. My brain was a highlight reel that wouldn't stop. The fights, the treasure, the kiss, by Bingbing in silk. Lu Qingshue's perfume, which she'd left on my sheets when she helped make my bed. That scent was basically psychological warfare. I opened WeChat. Lu Qingshue's chat was pinned at the top. Her profile picture was an artistic side portrait that was honestly unfair to every other woman on the platform. I stared at it, finger hovering over the keyboard. Then typed, "I miss you. Really badly. Can I come to your room?" Her reply came fast. "You're a bodyguard, not a boyfriend. Can you behave?" But I'm fluent in girl, and that message was not angry. There was flirting hidden in that scolding. The tone was playful, not hostile. This was the texting equivalent of pushing someone away while smiling. Encouraged, I fired back. "I'm coming up to the second floor. You wore me out last night with your 5 rounds, remember? I haven't recovered yet. I promise I'll just hold you. Nothing else." Long pause. Then, "Don't be quiet. Don't let Bingbing see you." I stared at my phone. She said yes. She actually said yes. This woman, this impossibly beautiful, famous, untouchable supermodel who had set rules and drawn boundaries and given me a whole speech about being just friends, had just given me permission to sneak into her bedroom. Less than 12 hours after telling me I was just the bodyguard, the rules lasted exactly 1 evening. A new world record for the shortest-lived house rules in history. I slipped out of bed like a ninja, scratch that, like a cat, scratch that, like a shadow with a racing heartbeat. Up the spiral staircase, silent as death, every step calculated to avoid creaks. Heading for the second floor, where a supermodel was waiting for me. In her bed, in a villa, while another supermodel, the one I had folders of photos of on my phone, slept 1 floor above. 24 hours ago, wardrobe. Right now this. If karma is real, I must have saved an entire country in a previous life. I crept up the carpeted hallway like a secret agent in a romance movie. One door had warm orange light leaking from underneath. I pushed it open. Unlocked. She'd left it unlocked for me, slipped in, and locked it behind me. Her room was gorgeous. Huge window overlooking the garden, sheer curtains half drawn, everything tasteful and expensive. And the air, her perfume had soaked into every molecule of this room. Breathing felt like a luxury experience. Lu Qingxue was sitting at her vanity, toweling off her freshly washed hair, water droplets still clinging to those dark strands. She turned around, gave me a playful glare, and said, "What are you standing there for? Come help your girlfriend blow dry her hair." Girlfriend. She said girlfriend. My heart did a triple backflip with a twist. "Wait, you're admitting it? I'm your boyfriend now?" She didn't deny it, just blushed and looked away. I grabbed the hairdryer and got to work, gently lifting her damp hair with one hand while directing warm air with the other. From this angle I could see her neck, long, elegant, swan-like. And her nightgown had an open back, exposing a landscape of flawless skin that glowed like warm jade under the lamplight. Every single inch was perfect, beautiful, I thought, out loud, apparently, because she blushed even harder. She watched me in the mirror, this clumsy guy carefully blow-drying her hair with the concentration of a bomb technician, and I could see it in her reflection. She was happy, actually, genuinely, deeply happy. Hair done, silky and gorgeous. She stood up, wrapped her arms around my neck, pressed her whole body against mine, looked up at me with those devastating peach blossom eyes, and whispered, "Remember your promise. Just holding. No funny business. I have a photo shoot tomorrow morning. Absolutely, babe. I am a man of my word." I was not a man of my word. What happened next? Look, I'll spare you the details, but let's just say the room temperature increased significantly. Promises were broken with enthusiasm on both sides, and the concept of just holding died a quick and painless death. Afterward, she lay there looking like a satisfied angel, swatting my arm weakly. "You're the worst. You said just holding. Starting now, I will hold you. No more movement. I swear. I don't believe you for 1 second. Go back to your room before you can't control yourself again." She had a point. I was already considering round 2. So I got dressed like a responsible adult, tiptoed out, and gently closed the door behind me, sealing a room full of warmth and sweetness. Best night ever. Again. Knock, knock, knock. Morning hit me like a freight train. Sunlight was striping through the blinds. Almost 9 o'clock. I'd slept like the dead. Between yesterday's street fight, the move, and last night's overtime work, my body had simply shut down. Coming, I stumbled out of bed, shirtless, wearing only baggy shorts, brain still at 15% battery. Shuffled to the door, pulled it open, and, still half dreaming about last night, smiled dopily and said, "Good morning, wifey." It was not Lu Qingxue. It was B.I. Bingbing, standing in my doorway, in a fitted white knee-length dress so elegant and simple it looked like it was designed by angels. Her legs were visible below the hem, long, pale, luminous, like pillars carved from Arctic ice. Hair flowing like a silk waterfall. Light makeup, cherry pink lips. The whole package radiating. "I am beautiful, and you are not worthy of breathing my air." And I had just called her wifey. My blood turned to ice water. My soul tried to evacuate through my feet. But then, miracle of miracles, she only gave me a slightly annoyed look and said coolly, "I have a name. You can call me by Bing Bing or Bingjia. Not that. Don't be like those obnoxious online fanboys." She thought I was just being a cringy fan. She had no idea I'd mistaken her for Lu Qingxue. Being a famous model meant thousands of weirdos called her wifey on the internet daily, so one more didn't even register as suspicious. I nearly collapsed with relief, then immediately doubled down because I am incapable of quitting while I'm ahead. "But I can't call you anything else," I said with maximum sincerity. "I've been your biggest fan since your very first runway show. You're my goddess. Wifey is just, it's hardwired into my brain. I physically cannot change it." She rubbed her temples like she was developing a migraine in real time. The look on her face said, "Great. We hired a stalker fan as our bodyguard." But she let it go. Bigger things to deal with. "Qingxue left for work this morning. She told me to take you job hunting. My uncle, Li Jiangwen, owns an antique shop on the antique street. I'll introduce you as an apprentice. Get dressed. Quickly. Don't waste my time. So let me get this straight. The Ice Queen, the untouchable goddess whose photos I'd been appreciating on lonely nights for years, was now standing in my doorway, wearing a dress that should be illegal, about to spend her day off personally escorting me to a job interview. And I'd opened the conversation by calling her wifey while shirtless in my boxers. Somehow, impossibly, I was still alive and not kicked out of the villa. This magic pearl didn't just give me treasure hunting powers. It gave me the luck of an immortal. "You want me to find you a job?" I grabbed the doorframe to stop myself from collapsing. Both of my wives were conspiring to make me employable. How touching. How unnecessary. How absolutely terrible for my treasure hunting schedule. I needed to find a way to weasel out of this. But first, survive the car ride. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of by Bing Bing's Maserati. Because apparently both women in this villa drove Maseratis. Just casual roommate things. "Can't you sit in the back?" she snapped. "People will think you're my boyfriend. How about I drive? Then they'll think I'm your chauffeur." "Absolutely not. Let no man touch her steering wheel." "Fair enough." She started driving, and the morning sun hit her face through the window, and I just stared. Golden light on porcelain skin. Those long eyelashes trembling slightly. That perfect nose. Those lips. For years, I'd been staring at this woman on a tiny phone screen in my dark bedroom, alone, imagining impossible scenarios. And now she was right there, close enough to touch, driving me around in her luxury car like it was nothing. Life is wild. We parked near the antique street. Bai Bingbing stepped out in white high-heeled sandals. Walking ahead of me like a runway was permanently installed under her feet. Every step was a fashion show. I was dutifully following behind like a well-trained puppy when, ping, massive treasure signal. Dead ahead. One of the street stalls. "Wifey, wait. I need to grab something." I zoomed to the stall before she could respond. Coins everywhere. Copper coins, silver dollars, piled up like metallic mountains. 99% garbage. But 2 coins were singing to me. A pair of Tianqi Tongbao Fold 10 large coins from the Ming Dynasty, buried among a bunch of fakes. "Boss, how much for these Tianqi coins?" The vendor, greasy hair, dirty clothes, shifty eyes, clocked me, then clocked the ice-cold goddess standing nearby, and immediately smelled money. 5,000 each. Genuine Ming Dynasty. Can't go a penny lower. 5,000? I snorted. Look at this floating rust. This copper color. These mushy characters. 50 each. I'll take 2 to play with. After a glorious haggling battle. 5,000, 50, 1,000, 100, 500, 100. We settled at 200 each. 400 yuan for 2 real Ming Dynasty coins worth thousands each. The vendor was grinning because he thought he'd sold me fakes for 200 times their cost. I was grinning because I'd bought real antiques for a fraction of their value. Behind me, Bai Bingbing watched with the expression of a scientist observing a particularly stupid lab rat. In her mind, this idiot just paid 400 yuan for counterfeits worth 4 yuan. He'll learn eventually. We kept walking. Those Tianchi coins you just bought, she said flatly, probably cost the vendor about 5 yuan to make. I didn't even hear her because my radar had just exploded again. Wifey, one more thing. I launched myself at a ceramic stall like a heat-seeking missile. Her eye twitched. I could actually see the blood pressure rising behind those cold, beautiful eyes. The stall was covered in antique, bowls, plates, vases, all shiny, all pretty, all fake. Modern reproductions designed to con tourists. Even I could tell. But hiding among this graveyard of fakes was one real piece. A small Qing Dynasty folk kiln blue and white bowl. Simple mountain landscape painting inside, plain outside, sandy base, grayish-blue coloring. Nothing fancy, just an ordinary working-class bowl from 200 years ago, worth maybe 5 to 10,000. Not a fortune, but hey, mosquito legs are still meat. How much for this bowl? I want it for my cat's food dish. That's a genuine Qing Dynasty piece. 3,000, 30, 500, 50, 100. Final offer, 80. Take it or I'm gone. Fine. 80. He'd bought it for 5 yuan. I bought it for 80. I polished it lovingly with my shirt. Bai Bingbing was now looking at me like I was a medical case study. Qingxue told me you're dirt poor. Now I understand why. Her tone had shifted from contempt to something closer to genuine pity. Like watching someone repeatedly walk into a glass door and being unable to stop them. In her eyes, I was a hopeless idiot who would spend every last yuan on worthless junk until I starved to death, surrounded by fake antiques. Even if this fool had money, he'd burn through it at this rate. He's financially suicidal. Wait, one more. I spotted a third stall and rocketed toward it before she could physically restrain me. I heard what might have been a blood vessel popping inside her skull. Is he insane? She was probably thinking. Is this a medical condition? Did Qingxue bring home someone with an actual mental disorder because he could punch people? This third stall was spectacular. Hundreds and hundreds of a special silver dollar called the Guizhou automobile coin, a famous collector's item from the Republic era featuring a car on the front. Real ones were worth 1 to 200,000 yuan. Naturally, 99.9% of these were fakes. There were enough counterfeits on this stall to fill a swimming pool. But one coin, one single coin, sitting quietly in the corner of this fake mountain, was blasting a treasure signal so strong it made everything I'd found today feel like background noise. This was the big one, and Bai Bingbing, standing behind me with her arms crossed and her patience in critical condition, had absolutely no idea she was about to witness a miracle. Or, more likely, she was about to witness what she thought was a mentally ill man buying his 4th piece of garbage in 20 minutes. Either way, I was buying that coin. My inner joy was doing cartwheels, but my face stayed poker flat. I squatted down next to the mountain of Guizhou automobile coins and started rummaging like a clueless tourist at a souvenir shop. Casually grabbed the real one, mixed it with 2 obvious fakes, and held them up. Boss, how much for these 3? The vendor, a jolly fat man who saw Bai Bingbing standing nearby and immediately calculated that I must be loaded, grinned like a Buddha statue. 30,000 each. Non-negotiable. 30, I countered. His smile twitched. We ping-ponged back and forth until I got all 3 for 500 yuan. His fakes cost him maybe 50 each to manufacture, so he was thrilled. I pocketed the real one, worth somewhere around 200,000, and chucked the 2 fakes into a nearby trash can. Bai Bingbing looked like she was witnessing someone set money on fire. You've spent nearly 1,000 yuan already. On nothing. Can you please stop? Her voice had evolved from annoyed to something approaching genuine medical concern. She was starting to worry I had a diagnosable condition. These might not be fakes, you know, I mumbled. She chose not to dignify that with a response. We walked in silence, her radiating cold fury, me radiating warm satisfaction, until we reached a big, fancy antique shop called Yaji Xian. Black signboard, gold characters, the whole prestigious setup. My radar did a quick scan of the store, mostly fakes and decorations, a handful of genuine pieces. Pretty standard for the business. Behind a red wooden tea table sat a man in his 50s wearing a traditional Chinese jacket and gold-rimmed glasses, reading an old book. He looked like the kind of guy who could identify a Song Dynasty vase by smell alone. "Uncle, good morning," Bai Bingbing said, her eyes thawing approximately 0.5 degrees for family. "Bingbing, come sit," Li Jiangwen smiled warmly. Then his eyes slid to me with laser-focused evaluation. The look said, "Let's see what we're working with here." We sat. He made tea with the practiced elegance of a kung fu master. Except instead of fighting, he was pouring water. Impressive either way. "So this is the young man who wants to be an apprentice?" "Yes, uncle. His name is Zhang Jun, 23. Studied antique appraisal in college." Bai Bingbing paused, then delivered the kill shot without blinking. "He loves treasure hunting, but basically gets scammed every time. That's why he's completely broke and owns nothing." She just quoted Lu Qingshua's assessment of me word for word. No filter, no mercy, not even a participation trophy of politeness. I rubbed my forehead. "Thanks, ladies. Really feeling the love." Li Jiangwen raised an eyebrow. "Your professor?" "Professor Deng Rong, from Boga Studio on this very street," I said. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Deng Rong had a reputation. Good sign. "Well then, let's test your eyes." He pulled out a white jade pendant from the counter and set it in front of me. Cloud patterns, threading hole, looked old. Classic test piece. My pearl said, "Zero signal." Absolutely dead. Not even a whisper. I didn't even pick it up. Just glanced at it. Fake. Glass. Baked coloring to simulate aging. I said it like I was reading a grocery list. Because to me, with the dragon pearl, it basically was that obvious. Li Jiangwen's eyebrows climbed his forehead. This piece had fooled plenty of so-called experts. Most newbies would at least pick it up, squint at it for 5 minutes, then get it wrong. I dismissed it in under 2 seconds. Lucky guess? Or actual skill? He took off his own personal bracelet, 12 perfectly round beads, creamy white, gorgeous luster, and placed it in front of me. My pearl sang. Rich, warm signal. Very real, very valuable. I picked it up, made a show of holding it to the light, rubbing the beads between my fingers, nodding thoughtfully. The whole performance, while actually just letting the spiritual energy flow into my palm. Premium Hetian yellow jade seed material. Excellent oil content, high density, true coloring. Quite valuable. Li Jiangwen's eyes brightened considerably. 2 for 2. The kid could actually see. He was already mentally calculating how nice it would be to have a competent apprentice who could watch the shop while he went for lunch. No more closing up every time he needed to use the bathroom. He set down his teacup, assumed his boss pose, and laid out the terms. No days off. In the shop every day, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes later. Sweeping, organizing, greeting customers, running errands. You do it all. But mainly you'll learn from me. Watch, listen, absorb. He paused for effect. There is a salary. Not high. You're here to learn. Lunch included. No housing. So, what salary are you looking for? Standard apprentice pay was maybe 2 or 3,000 a month. Bai Bingbing was frantically making eyes at me from across the table. Say something low. Be humble. Just get the job. Don't be weird. Practically semaphoring, 3,000, with her eyeballs. I made my thoughtful face. Rubbed my chin. Held up 3 fingers. Both of them relaxed. 3,000. Reasonable. Good. Then I opened my mouth. Would a monthly salary of 3 million work? The silence that followed could have been cut with a knife, served on a plate, and sold as performance art. Li Jiangwen's teacup froze halfway to his lips. By Bingbing's left, I developed an involuntary twitch. 3 million. Per month. The broke, supposedly clueless, garbage collecting, fake antique buying, lives in a shoebox, apprentice, had just requested a salary higher than most CEOs make. In my defense, I had $500,000 in the bank, legendary kung fu, a magic treasure detecting pearl, and I'd just bought 3 genuine antiques for under 1,000 yuan that were collectively worth $250,000. Why would I work for 3,000 a month? The look on by Bing Bing's face alone was worth the entire trip. She'd gone from, "This man is a fool," to, "This man is genuinely, clinically insane," in the span of 4 words. 300 million? Her brain was buffering so hard I could almost hear the spinning wheel. Because I paused between 300 and million, both of them only heard the first part. Li Jiangwen's face lit up like a Christmas tree. 300 yuan a month? This kid was basically volunteering. A trained appraiser who could tell real from fake, and he wanted lunch money as his salary? The man was already mentally planning his vacation schedule. Bai Bingbing rubbed her forehead, half amused, half pitying. She'd told me to aim low, but this low? 300 couldn't even cover food for a week. But hey, free housing at the villa, so maybe it worked out? Both of them were sitting there, marinating in satisfaction, when I scratched my head and added, "Oh, just to clarify, I said 300 million, not 300. I let that detonate. And honestly, I'm giving you a discount because you're my wifey Bing Bing's uncle. Normally I'd charge at least 10 million a month." The silence that followed was so thick you could have built furniture out of it. Li Jiangwen's smile didn't fade, it died. It went from, "Jackpot," to, "Am I being pranked?" to, "Is this person medically insane?" in about 2 seconds. He literally stuck his finger in his ear and wiggled it, checking if his hearing was broken. 3 million a month. As an apprentice. At a shop that probably didn't make 3 million in a year. He was looking at me the way you look at someone who just told you they're the reincarnation of Napoleon. Bai Bingbing's face went through a journey. Confusion, disbelief, horror, and finally, he's clinically insane. He is actually, medically, certifiably insane. We invited a lunatic into our home. I could see her mentally connecting the dots, the compulsive garbage buying, the delusional confidence, the wifey thing, all symptoms pointing to one diagnosis. This man's brain is broken. But then I made things worse. Because I'm me. I'm only asking this much because you're my wifey Bing Bing's uncle. What? Li Jiangwen launched out of his chair like a rocket. You're Bing Bing's boyfriend? His face was pure catastrophe. The expression of a man watching a rare orchid being planted in radioactive sewage. Uncle, no, Bai Bingbing nearly fainted, jumping up to do damage control. He's not my boyfriend. He's just a fan. Fans call me that online. It's a fan thing. She was mentally murdering Lu Qingxue with every brain cell she had. You brought home a psychopath as our bodyguard, Qingxue. Sure, he can punch people, but he's deranged. Li Jiangwen collapsed back into his chair, clutching his chest. Oh, thank God. The relief was so powerful he looked like a man who'd just been told his terminal diagnosis was actually just gas. Because in his mind, Bai Bingbing was royalty. Only the wealthiest, most powerful men in the country deserved her. This raving lunatic demanding 3 million yuan per month at an antique shop? He wasn't qualified to carry her shoes. The misunderstanding was cleared, but the mood was destroyed. Li Jiangwen pointed at the door, face thunderous. This shop is too small for a big Buddha like you. Get out. Now here was my masterpiece of acting. I put on my most desperate, heartbroken, puppy dog kicked in the rain face. Please, Mr. Li. I really want this job. I can make you so much money. You have no idea. I frantically pulled out my morning purchases, the 2 Tianqi coins, the blue and white bowl, the Guizhou automobile coin, and thrust them toward him like a child showing a parent a crayon drawing. Look, these are all genuine treasures I found today. They're worth a fortune. With me in your shop, you'd make tens of millions. He didn't even glance at them. In his mind, I was waving around a bag of garbage and calling it treasure, which, from his perspective, was entirely consistent with my diagnosis of being a crazy person. He leaned toward Bai Bingbing and whispered, loud enough for me and probably the entire street to hear. Is he mentally okay? Bai Bingbing, to her credit, looked genuinely embarrassed. Probably not, but I didn't know before today. She sighed the sigh of a woman questioning every life decision that led to this moment. He's probably not suited for any normal job. She stood up, glared at me with the force of a glacier, and commanded, we're leaving. Unless you want to embarrass yourself more. 3 million a month. The richest man alive couldn't afford you. My uncle certainly can't. Inside, I was celebrating. Mission accomplished. I'd successfully torpedoed the job interview without technically refusing it. I'd shown eagerness. I really wanted to work here. but made myself unhireable through salary demands. Now neither Lu Qingxue nor Bai Bingbing could blame me for being unemployed. I tried. The salary negotiation just didn't work out. Perfect. I put on my best, disappointed but accepting, face and sighed. Fine, I guess. But then, right as we were about to leave, a young guy walked into the shop. Slicked hair, trendy clothes, flashy watch, carrying something wrapped in old newspaper. Boss, you buying? Family heirloom. Need cash fast. He unwrapped it on the tea table. A small wooden Buddha statue, about 6 inches tall. Gray, most of the gold plating chipped off, crude craftsmanship, blurry face. Classic late Qing Dynasty mass-produced folk workshop garbage. The guy wasn't even really paying attention to his own sale. His eyes kept sliding over to Bai Bingbing like magnets, practically drooling at her. His brain had obviously left the building the moment she entered his field of vision. But me? I wasn't looking at Bai Bingbing for once. I was looking at that ugly little Buddha. Because my dragon pearl was going crazy. That chipped, gray, worthless-looking lump of wood was radiating a treasure signal strong enough to give me goosebumps. Everyone in this room thought I was insane. They were about to find out just how sane I really was. Li Jiangwen picked up the Buddha statue, glanced at it for approximately 1.5 seconds, and tossed it back on the table like it was a used napkin. Common folk worship piece. Bad craftsmanship. Tons of these around. Worth 1,000, max. The young seller exploded. 1,000? That's not even dinner. This is a family heirloom. Kid, you've been to other shops. They probably offered even less. Li Jiangwen fired back, still cranky from my salary demand. Junk is junk. We're not a charity. The guy tried to push for 2,000. Li Jiangwen didn't budge a single yuan. The young man grabbed his Buddha, cursed under his breath about rip-off shops, and headed for the door. And that was my cue. Wait. I lunged after him like a cat chasing a laser pointer, leaving Bai Bingbing and Li Jiangwen staring at me with matching, what now, faces. I caught the guy at the door, grinning like I'd just won the lottery, which, spiritually speaking, I had. Brother, 2,000. Deal. I'll take it. I whipped out cash, counted out 200 yuan bills, slapped them into his hand, and snatched that ugly little Buddha before anyone could blink. The young man stared at the money, stared at me. His expression clearly said, I have found the world's biggest idiot, and I must leave before he realizes what happened. He pocketed the cash and sprinted away. Gone in 3 seconds. Didn't even look back. Probably ran all the way home laughing. Back inside, the silence was deafening. Bai Bingbing and Li Jiangwen were standing there looking at me like I'd just eaten a brick and asked for seconds. Uncle, Bai Bingbing whispered. He already spent over 1,000 on 3 fakes this morning. And now another 2,000 on this. Li Jiangwen's face was pure pity now. The man genuinely looked like he might cry on my behalf. Bingbing, he said solemnly, shaking his head. Please take him to a hospital. Perhaps there's still hope for treatment. He was serious. He wanted me committed. Not hired, hospitalized. In his professional opinion, I had crossed the line from eccentric collector to clinical delusion requiring medical intervention. Bai Bingbing's toes were curling so hard inside her shoes, she was probably drilling through the floor. The embarrassment was physical. Uncle, I'll take him to get checked out immediately, she said through gritted teeth, already planning the fastest route to the nearest psychiatric ward. She stepped outside and found me lovingly polishing my ugly gray Buddha with my sleeve, smiling at it like it was a newborn puppy. The vein in her temple pulsed visibly. We're going to the hospital. Now, her voice could have frozen lava. Hospital? They actually think I'm mentally ill. Okay, I may have overplayed this a tiny bit. The 3 million salary, the garbage shopping spree, the overpaying for a worthless Buddha eye in front of a professional antique dealer. Yeah, the accumulated evidence was not great for my sanity profile. I needed an emergency image rehabilitation. Fast. Actually, I need to stop by my professor's shop first. Just to say hi. I pulled out Professor Deng as my emergency credibility shield. Bai Bingbing almost said no, but then thought, if even his own teacher thinks he's crazy, then we have our answer and I can kick him out today. Lead the way, she said. 2 words. Maximum ice. So we walked through the antique street together, the possible lunatic and the untouchable goddess. And naturally, she was recognized within 30 seconds. Oh my God, it's Bai Bingbing. She's even more beautiful in person. Those legs, bing bing. Look here. I'm your biggest fan. People swarmed. Phones everywhere. Cameras clicking. The entire street turned into an impromptu photo shoot. If I could date by Bing Bing, I'd die happy tomorrow, some random dude murmured with glazed eyes. She ignored all of them. Pure Ice Queen autopilot. Just frowned slightly and walked faster while I instinctively moved closer, using my body to block people who got too near. Bodyguard mode activated. Even if the person I was protecting currently thought I needed psychiatric medication. We finally reached Professor Deng's shop. Familiar incense. Familiar old book smell. The old man was hunched over some ancient text, squinting through his reading glasses. Professor, good morning, I called out cheerfully. Then I stepped aside, gestured grandly at Bai Bing Bing, and announced with absolute confidence, "This is my wife, Bai Bing Bing." PFFFFFFD. Professor Deng's tea went everywhere. Up his nose, down his chin, across the ancient text he'd been reading. His glasses slid to the tip of his nose as he hacked and coughed violently. He looked at me. He looked at her. This otherworldly creature standing in his doorway radiating, touch me and die. Energy while simultaneously looking like she'd been sculpted by a team of angels with PhDs in beauty. Am married? Wife? His voice cracked like a teenager's. I could see his brain struggling to process. Yesterday, this kid showed up with a cool coin. Today, he shows up with a supermodel wife? How? When? In what universe does this math work? Bai Bing Bing, meanwhile, was standing behind me contemplating whether it would be legally defensible to strangle me in front of a witness. 3 times. I called her wifey 3 times today in front of 3 different people. The score so far. People who think I'm her boyfriend. 2 people who think I'm insane. 2 people who think both. 2, and the day was still young. Wifey, this is my professor, Professor Deng, I continued, because apparently I have a death wish. Bai Bing Bing's I did that twitching thing again. She took a deep breath that could have filled a hot air balloon, maintained her Ice Queen composure, and gave Professor Deng a polite nod. He's just a fan, she explained for the 3rd time today. Many of my fans call me that. Professor Deng clutched his chest with relief. Oh, I see. Then he glared at me. This kid was going to give him a heart attack one of these days. But once he confirmed I wasn't actually married to a supermodel, and his cardiovascular system stabilized, his hunter instincts kicked in. Did you find anything good? Before I could answer, Bai Bing Bing jumped in with the most delicious sarcasm. Oh, he found 4 major treasures today. Worth hundreds of thousands, apparently. The tone said, "Please, experienced professional, confirm to this lunatic that he bought garbage so I can take him to a psychiatric hospital." Professor Deng's eyes lit up like fireworks. 4? Show me now. I pulled out the Tianqi coins, the blue and white bowl, and the Guizhou automobile coin. Kept the Buddha aside for the grand finale. He grabbed his magnifying glass and flashlight and went full forensic scientist mode. First up, the 2 Tianqi coins. He examined the characters, the rust, the holes, the patina, weighed them, smelled them, then smiled. Genuine. Tianqi Tongbao fold 10 large coins. Medium condition, some character wear, but the patina is natural and the rust penetrates deep. Authentic aged pieces, he thought for a moment. Market price about 15 to 20,000 each. I'll give you 38,000 for the pair. Done. Next, the blue and white bowl. He checked the glaze, the blue coloring, the painting, the foot ring, even flicked the rim to hear the sound. Mid to late Qing folk kiln. Real. Crude painting, but natural brushwork. Typical stone blue coloring. Rough clay body, sandy foot, all period-correct features. This type is common, not super valuable. 6,000 for this one. Done. Finally, the Guizhou automobile coin. His whole demeanor shifted to serious mode. The magnifying glass was practically kissing the coin's surface. He studied every detail for several minutes, stroking the surface with his fingertips, checking the edge teeth, the strike depth. Then he exhaled like a man who'd been holding his breath underwater. "You magnificent little rascal. This is the real deal." He was pointing at the coin, almost vibrating with excitement. "This is a genuine, old private mint Guizhou automobile coin. Look at these clean, flowing lines on the car design. The floral pattern on the back, crisp and precise. The patina is classic black lacquer, thick and warm. Characters deeply struck, edge teeth sharp." His voice kept climbing. These coins are rare, and this old private mint version is even rarer. At auction, the right collector would pay over 200,000. Private sale, I won't cheat you, 180,000. Sell it to me, 180,000. Plus the 38,000. Plus the 6,000. I'd spent roughly 1,000 yuan this morning. I was walking out with 224,000. A 224x return. Before lunch. On a Tuesday. Now, let me describe what was happening to Bai Bingbing, because this was the moment that made the entire pretend to be crazy performance worth it. She had frozen. Completely. Like someone pressed pause on a movie. Her mouth was slightly open. Her eyes were locked on the 3 items that had just been certified as genuine, high-value antiques. Then those eyes slowly, so slowly, traveled from the treasures to my face. I could literally watch her entire worldview collapse in real time. Every conclusion she'd drawn today, he's a fool, he's insane, he needs a hospital, he's buying garbage, was being demolished like a building implosion, floor by floor, brick by brick. She was replaying the morning, me diving at stalls, her rolling her eyes, me haggling like a lunatic, her contemplating psychiatric referrals, me casually buying priceless artifacts for pocket change while she stood there pitying me. He wasn't crazy. He was a genius? How? He's 23. How did he see what professional dealers couldn't? Those street vendors had no idea what they were selling him. Neither did Uncle. Neither did I. I called him a fool. I called him insane. I tried to take him to a mental hospital. Her brain was doing a complete system reinstall. But then, sweet relief for her ego, Professor Deng picked up the Buddha statue. He turned it over, checked the craftsmanship, shook his head. This one's worthless. Common late Qing folk workshop piece. Crude work. Maybe 300 to 500 tops. Bai Bingbing exhaled. Finally, he got one wrong. He's not perfect. He is still partially an idiot. The universe made sense again. See, even he makes mistakes. This is normal. The Buddha is junk. Order is restored. But I wasn't done. Professor, I said, wearing a smile that probably looked annoyingly confident. This Buddha isn't what it seems. Doesn't it feel a bit light? Professor Deng paused, picked it up again, weighed it in his hand. His eyebrows slowly converged. It is lighter than a solid wood Buddha this size should be. I think it's hollow inside. I pointed to a nearly invisible hairline crack along the Buddha's back. And hollow Buddhist statues from this era? Sometimes people hid things inside them. The room went very, very quiet. Bai Bingbing's brief moment of smug relief evaporated like morning dew on a volcano. Because the look on Professor Deng's face was shifting from, the kid made a mistake, to, oh God, what if the kid is right again, and somewhere inside that ugly, chipped, 2,000 yuan Buddha, my dragon pearl was telling me something wonderful was waiting to be found. Hollow doesn't mean there's treasure inside, Professor Deng said, shaking his head. Lots of Buddha statues are hollow. It's just how they're made. Fair point. But my dragon pearl wasn't pinging because of air. Still, I'd gotten his curiosity itching, and Professor Deng was physically incapable of ignoring an itch. The man was born to investigate things. Fine, you've got me curious, he admitted, pulling out a little toolbox from under his counter. Tiny tweezers, probes, a small hammer, a lit magnifying glass. The man had a whole archaeological surgery kit hidden down there. He put on gloves, leaned in, and started carefully poking at that hairline crack on the Buddha's back with a needle-thin probe. The concentration on his face was intense, like a bomb disposal expert, except the bomb was a 2,000 yuan ugly statue. Bai Bingbing couldn't help herself. She drifted closer, holding her breath. Even the Ice Queen couldn't resist a mystery box moment. 5 minutes of delicate poking. Then, Professor Deng found something. A tiny lotus petal decoration on the back that looked purely ornamental. He pressed it, slid it sideways. Click. A fingernail-sized secret door popped open near the base of the Buddha. There's actually a hidden compartment. Professor Deng's voice jumped an entire octave. The man was shook. With trembling hands, he inserted tweezers into the tiny opening and extracted a small roll of yellowed paper. Thin but tough, wound into a tight cylinder, tied with a faded red silk thread. He placed it on black velvet cloth, untied the thread, and began unrolling it with the care of someone handling a live butterfly. 10 sheets, each one printed with elaborate designs, complex text, anti-counterfeiting patterns, and bright red official seals. The center of each read, Ministry of Revenue official note. Value, 50,000 cash. These are, Professor Deng's breathing was getting dangerously fast. Xinfeng-era Ministry of Revenue official banknotes. 50 string denomination. He examined each one, getting more excited with every sheet. The condition is extraordinary. Some natural yellowing, minor fold lines, but zero damage, zero staining. The red seals are perfectly clear. The designs are intact, and they're sequentially numbered. 10 in a row. Let me translate. Xinfeng-era banknotes were paper currency from the late Qing dynasty. Because of wars and massive inflation, most were destroyed. Finding ones in good condition was already rare. Finding 10 consecutive serial numbers in near-perfect condition? That was like finding a unicorn riding another unicorn. Professor Deng looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not teacher looking at student. More like scientist discovering new species. Zhang Jun, what are your eyes made of? You knew there were Xianfeng banknotes hidden inside a hollow Buddha statue? You didn't guess. You knew. Nah, just lucky, I said casually, waving it off. Thank you, Dragon Pearl. All credit goes to you, my beautiful magical hand rock. I want these. Professor Deng grabbed my wrist like a man grabbing a life raft. Name your price. No, I'll name the price. These 10 notes, if the right paper currency collector sees them, could easily fetch 1 to 1.8 million. Plus the Buddha itself. Even though it's crude, the hidden treasure story alone adds value. He switched to emotional warfare. Zhang Jun, have I been a good teacher? Haven't I always treated you well? You wouldn't forget your old professor, would you? Let me have these. 1 million. Buddha plus banknotes. 1 million. Yuan. He saw me hesitate and added desperately. You can't sell these yourself anyway. Let me handle it. Cash in your pocket, safe and simple. I looked at his eager, sincere face. He genuinely loved these pieces. And 1 million was a very fair price. Maybe even generous considering he was factoring in his fondness for me. Professor, when you put it that way. Fine. 1 million. Deal? All 4 items today. 1,224,000 total. Transferring now. Phone buzzed. Bank notification. 1,224,000 yen received. 1.22 million. From a morning of shopping that cost me roughly 3,000 yuan. Let me update the life scoreboard. Yesterday's earnings. 510,000 yen. Today's morning earnings. 1,224,000 yen running total. Approximately 1,734,000 yen, 1.7 million yuan. I was a millionaire. In 2 days. Starting from zero. Now, by Bing Bing. Oh, beautiful, frosty, condescending by Bing Bing. The woman who had spent the entire morning looking at me like I was a case study in clinical insanity. Who had tried to take me to a hospital. Who had told her uncle I was, probably brain damaged. Who had watched me buy 4 items and mentally filed each purchase under evidence of mental illness. She was standing there looking like someone had pulled the plug on her operating system. Her eyes moved from the beautiful Xianfeng banknotes spread across the velvet to smiling Professor Deng. To my face. I could see every realization crashing through her mind like dominoes. The Buddha had treasure inside. Worth 1 million. Uncle saw the same Buddha and offered 1,000. Uncle was wrong. I called Zhang Jun a fool. I called him insane. I tried to get him committed. The fool just made 1.2 million in one morning. When he asked for 3 million a month. Was that, actually, reasonable? That last thought clearly horrified her. But she couldn't think it. A man who casually earns 1.2 million before lunch asking for 3 million a month wasn't crazy. He was giving a discount. Her entire framework for understanding me had been carpet-bombed. Every label she'd stuck on me, idiot, lunatic, charity case, needs psychiatric help, was now lying in smoking ruins. And the biggest question circling her brain. If he's this good, why was he broke before? Did he just activate this ability today? She was staring at me like I was a Rubik's Cube that had just solved itself. Professor Deng beamed at me with grandfatherly pride. Outstanding. The student surpasses the master. Come back anytime. I nodded warmly, then turned to the still buffering ice goddess. Come on, wifey. Let's go. She followed me out without correcting me. For the first time all day, she didn't say a single word about the wifey thing. Progress. Walking out of Professor Deng's shop, The antique street was still buzzing, but Bai Bingbing had gone quiet. The Ice Queen was experiencing a system malfunction. She kept glancing at me sideways with this look I'd never seen on her before, like I was a vending machine that had just dispensed a Ferrari instead of a candy bar. I couldn't resist. So, wifey, are we still going to the hospital? And no, she turned away so fast her hair whipped in an arc. Her ears were pink. Bai Bingbing's ears were pink. If I'd told anyone this, they'd have called me the one needing psychiatric evaluation. Then where are we going? Follow me. She power walked back toward her uncle's shop, heels clicking on the cobblestones with a rhythm that screamed, I have made a terrible miscalculation and I need to fix it immediately. She was dragging me back to Li Jiangwen's shop. Not because she wanted me to get a job anymore, but because she needed to convince her uncle that I was insane. We walked into Yaji Xian. Li Jiangwen was feather dusting his shelves, looking peaceful. The moment he spotted us, his face curdled like expired milk. He didn't even let us speak, just started waving his hands frantically. Bing Bing, why are you back? Even if he accepts 300 yuan now, I don't want him. This mentally unstable person could destroy my merchandise. Smash things. Scare customers. Take him wherever. A hospital, a temple. I don't care, just not here. Bai Bingbing's face turned the color of a stoplight. She grabbed her uncle's arm, dragged him to a corner of the shop, and started whisper explaining in rapid fire. From across the room, I could watch his face transform in real time. It was like watching a time-lapse of the seasons changing. Winter, disgust. Why did you bring the crazy man back? Spring, confusion. Wait, the coins were real? Summer, shock. The Buddha had a secret compartment. Autumn, devastating regret, he made. 1.2 million this morning. He whipped his head around and stared at me, standing there casually browsing his merchandise, hands behind my back, radiating main character energy. I could see the exact moment his soul left his body. That worthless Buddha he'd dismissed for 1,000 yuan had Xinfeng banknotes inside it worth 1 million. And this lunatic he'd kicked out of his shop had spotted it, bought it for 2,000, and flipped it within the hour. The math was simple and devastating. Li Jiangwen had been standing 1,000 yuan away from making over 1 million, and he'd let it walk out his door because he couldn't be bothered to look twice. His face cycled through colors like a broken traffic light. Red, white, green, back to red. To his credit, the man swallowed his pride and walked back over to me with a smile that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts. Xiaozhong, I was clearly too hasty earlier. You're obviously a man of hidden talents. But then self-preservation kicked in. However, my little shop really can't accommodate someone of your caliber. You clearly don't need employment. You can earn more from treasure hunting than I make all year. Translation. You're amazing, but 3 million a month would bankrupt me. So please leave before I feel obligated to offer you something. I put on my, aw shucks, face. Mr. Li, you're too modest. Your shop is wonderful. Great location, nice inventory. I'd love to work here. Really, my eyes were secretly scanning his shelves, several items with strong treasure signals that he clearly didn't know about. This shop was basically a buffet I hadn't eaten from yet. But since you don't want me, I sighed theatrically, I guess we'll just have to be family instead. Bai Bingbing detonated. Stop making up relationships. Her eyebrows went vertical. Those cold star eyes shot actual laser beams at me. Call us relatives one more time and you're moving out. Kidding, kidding. I held up my hands in surrender, absolutely zero fear on my face, then turned to Li Jiangwen and made things worse. Honestly, I don't even want a job. It's my 2 wives who keep insisting I get one. Sorry for the trouble, uncle. Uncle? This idiot is going to kill me. Bai Bingbing was shaking with fury, gorgeous face flushed, caught between wanting to strangle me and knowing she couldn't because I was the villa's security system. 2 wives? Li Jiangwen pressed his fingers against his throbbing temple, feeling a migraine building with the structural integrity of a concrete dam. First, this guy wanted 3 million a month. Then he turned out to be a treasure-hunting genius. Now he had 2 wives and was calling him uncle? The man had experienced more emotional whiplash in one morning than most people get in a lifetime. And somewhere inside my pocket, my dragon Pearl hummed contentedly, probably laughing at all of us. That's right, 2 wives, I said with a completely straight face. Bai Bingbing and Lu Qingxue, both supermodels. Both my wives and my heart. I'm currently working as their live-in bodyguard. Half of that was true. I'll let you guess which half. Li Jiangwen's brain was doing the spinning beach ball thing. Bai Bingbing looked like she wanted to strangle me with her bare hands, but couldn't because bodyguard was technically accurate, and she couldn't deny it without explaining the actual living arrangement. She settled for death, glaring me while her ear tips turned pink. Again, you can fight too? Li Jiangwen was scanning me up and down like an airport security machine. Oh yeah, I had a fight right here on the antique street yesterday. Didn't you see it, uncle? His eyes went wide, then wider. Then I thought they might actually fall out. Wait, that was you. The kid who beat up Gong Wei's 15 bodyguards with Bajiquan? Like an adult beating up children? They're all still in the hospital. I saw that fight. I've been talking about it all day. That was you. And just like that, every negative impression evaporated. I went from dangerous lunatic to legendary warrior genius in his eyes within about 3 seconds. Now that Uncle Li was thoroughly starstruck, I made my move. I casually picked up a plain wooden brush holder from the corner of his shop. Dark brown, natural wood grain, no carvings, no decorations. About 6 inches tall. The kind of thing you'd walk past 1,000 times without a second look. It had been sitting there for years and nobody had cared. The brush holder itself had almost zero treasure signal, barely a whisper. But the bottom? The bottom was screaming. Same situation as the Buddha statue. Something was hidden inside. Uncle, how much for this brush holder? I like calligraphy and need one for my study. Li Jiangwen's eyes narrowed instantly. His internal alarm started blaring. This kid just found treasure inside a worthless Buddha. Now he wants my brush holder? Trap, trap, trap. This brush holder. It's not another hidden treasure, is it? Don't try to scam me, kid. Uncle, I would never cheat family, I said, radiating pure innocence. I genuinely just need a brush holder. This one's plain and simple. I like it. You have a study? Bai Bingbing muttered from the side. Not buying any of this. I leaned in close to whisper my response, and immediately got hit with her incredible scent, the sight of her porcelain neck, her silky hair, that devastating figure in the white dress, curves that defied the laws of physics. Focus, Zhang Jun, focus. The villa's first floor has plenty of rooms. One of them can be my study. I breathed near her ear. She stiffened. A faint blush crept across her cheeks. She stepped back, but only one step this time. Previously, she would have retreated a full 3 meters. We were making progress on the retreat distance. There is a study on the first floor. You can use it, she conceded quietly. Victory. I now had an official room in the supermodel villa. Li Jiangwen examined the brush holder one more time. Plain wood. No markings. No signature. Just a simple cylinder from the Republic era. Worth maybe 100 yuan on a generous day. 500, he said, half testing, half hoping to overcharge me. 50, I fired back. You call me uncle and you haggle like that? Fine. 60. And that's because of my wifey Bingbing. Stop involving me in your negotiations. Bai Bingbing snapped from the sidelines, face burning. After 10 minutes of absolutely shameless haggling, during which both Li Jiangwen and I repeatedly used Bai Bingbing's name as leverage while she stood there wanting to evaporate, we settled on 200 yuan. Li Jiangwen took the money looking devastated, but internally celebrating. The brush holder had been a free add-on from some bulk purchase. 0 cost. 200 yuan of pure profit. Sucker, he thought. Oh, uncle, I thought. We'll see who the sucker is. We left the shop. Bai Bingbing asked if I wanted to keep treasure hunting. Nope. Going home, I had a brush holder to crack open, and my gut, well, my dragon pearl, was telling me something very interesting was waiting inside. We grabbed lunch at a nice restaurant. I paid. She didn't fight me on it. Progress level. She now accepted meals from me without protest. 2 days ago, she wouldn't have accepted my existence without protest. Back at the villa, I had something important to do before investigating the brush holder. I opened my banking app and transferred 1 million yuan to my mother's account. Then I called her. 7 rings before she picked up. Mom always let it ring. She was always busy, always tired, always working herself to the bone. Xiao Jun, are you short on money? I just got my paycheck. I can send you some. That was Mom. Her first instinct, before hello, before how are you, before anything, was to worry that her son needed money, that her broke, unemployed, recently dumped son was struggling somewhere out there, and needed his mother to bail him out with whatever scraps she could spare from her own meager salary. My eyes got hot. 2 days ago, she would have been right. I was broke. I was struggling. I probably would have needed her money eventually. But today her broke son had just put 1 million yuan in her bank account, had another 700,000 in his own, on legendary martial arts skills, possessed a magical treasure-detecting pearl, and was living in a luxury villa with two of the most beautiful women in the country. I took a breath and got ready to blow her mind. "Mom, I'm fine. I don't need money," I said, my nose stinging, fighting back tears. "Actually, I have good news. I've become an expert treasure hunter. Made millions in just a few days." Okay, I exaggerated a little. It was more like 1.3 million over 2 days. But moms deserve round numbers. "Child, what nonsense are you talking in broad daylight?" Mom's voice was tired, sad, and worried all at once. She thought I'd finally cracked from the pressure and was hallucinating wealth like a broke person's fever dream. Then her phone went ding. Bank notification. 1 million yuan received. Dead silence. Just heavy breathing. Then, "Oh my God. Son, you're serious? You transferred me 1 million. Her voice cracked into a frequency I'd never heard before. "It's real, Mom. We're done being poor. Forever." The words came pouring out of me like a dam breaking. "Use that money to hire 2 massage therapists for Dad, one for daytime, one for nighttime, so his muscles don't waste away. And you, quit your job today. Rest. Buy nice clothes. Get good skincare. Take care of yourself." I was talking a mile a minute, trying to cram years of guilt and love into one phone call. And when Dad wakes up, he needs to see that his wife is still beautiful. If he opens his eyes after all these years and sees you looking exhausted, he might go find himself a younger woman. And then we're really in trouble. That last part was a joke. Sort of. But it carried the weight of the deepest wound in my heart. See, my dad was the reason I understood what broke really meant. During my senior year of high school, he was driving home from a business trip when a speeding truck ran a red light and hit him. The driver fled. Never caught. Dad survived, but he became a vegetable, just lying there, breathing, but gone. The medical bills devoured everything. Mom worked herself half to death, multiple jobs, no rest, aging 10 years into. Our comfortable middle-class life evaporated overnight, replaced by hospital corridors and debt collectors and the crushing, suffocating weight of having no money when someone you love needs expensive miracles. That's why being poor wasn't just uncomfortable for me. It was personal. Wah! Mom broke down completely. Full, heaving, ugly crying that carried years of suffering in every sob. Joy, relief, bitterness, pride. Everything she'd held together for so long just collapsed. Husband, can you hear me? Our son made it. He's a treasure expert now. He earns tens of thousands a day. She was sobbing to Dad's unconscious body, each word soaked in tears. If only you could wake up. How happy we'd be. My own tears hit like a flood. But I bit down hard, refusing to let her hear me cry. One of us had to be the strong one right now. "Mom, stop crying. Listen, Dad will wake up. I have a plan. The doctors. Every specialist we've seen says there's nothing they can do. Only a miracle." She was sniffling, caught between desperate hope and years of disappointment. "Mom, when I make enough money, I'll put up a bounty. 1 billion yuan. Someone, somewhere, will know how to help him. Money moves mountains. 1 billion. She was stunned speechless. But there was something I didn't tell her. Something I couldn't explain. If modern doctors couldn't help Dad, maybe ancient ones could. Hua Tuo, Bian Ke, Zhang Zhongjing, Li Shizhen. The greatest medical minds in Chinese history. Their knowledge wasn't gone, it was locked inside artifacts. Their brushes, their tools, their manuscripts. If those objects still existed somewhere, and if they carried spiritual imprints, my dragon pearl could extract those skills. I could literally download ancient medical genius into my brain. All I had to do was keep hunting treasures, meeting collectors, exploring the antique world. Someday, maybe someday soon, I'd find a relic touched by a legendary physician. And on that day, I'd become a doctor who could perform miracles. And I'd wake up my father. "Mom, trust me. Just this once. I will earn that billion. Maybe more. Your job right now is to take care of yourself, enjoy life, and wait for Dad to open his eyes. Leave everything else to me." She finally laughed through her tears. Okay, okay, I believe you. My son is the best. I'll go hire those massage therapists right now. And, and maybe buy a new dress. Hearing her laugh, actually laugh, for the first time in years nearly destroyed me all over again. I hung up, wiped my face, and took a deep breath. Time to open that brush holder. I found a small toolbox in the villa's storage room, screwdrivers, a tiny hammer, tweezers. Carried everything into an empty first-floor room with a desk and bookshelves and good natural light. This is my study now, I announced to nobody. I placed the brush holder on the desk and hid it with a flashlight. The inside looked normal. The bottom looked solid, but with the right angle and the right light, I could see it. A hairline seam running around the edge of the base, disguised perfectly within the natural wood grain. And below that seam, my dragon pearl was practically having a seizure. The treasure signal was massive. Whatever was hidden under this false bottom was something serious. I took the flathead screwdriver and started working the seam. Slowly, carefully. The wood was hard, and I absolutely could not damage whatever was inside. 10 minutes of gentle, patient prying. The most restrained I'd been in 48 hours of nonstop chaos. Click. The bottom cracked open. False bottom. I knew it. I eased the circular base plate out with tweezers. Half a centimeter thick, fitted so precisely to the cylinder that you'd never find it without knowing it was there. Master-level craftsmanship. Underneath, a shallow round cavity, about 6 centimeters across. And inside that cavity, a small bundle wrapped in imperial yellow silk cloth. My heart was jackhammering, hands trembling. I lifted the little package out with tweezers, set it on a soft cloth, and began unwrapping the brittle old silk with the delicacy of a surgeon performing brain surgery. The fabric fell open. My eyes went wide. My face split into the biggest grin of my life. Because whatever was sitting there on that yellow silk, glowing softly under my desk lamp, was about to make everything that had happened so far look like pocket change. A silver dollar. Not just any silver dollar. This thing was a masterpiece. Chocolate brown patina with rainbow iridescence. Yuan Shirkai's portrait on the front, but carved deeper, sharper, more detailed than any regular coin. Every whisker on his mustache, every thread on his uniform, crisp as the day it was struck. And there, right next to the collar on the portrait's right side, a tiny, almost invisible scratch mark. My brain went into overdrive, pulling up everything I'd studied in college. L.G., the initials of Luigi Giorgi, the Italian master engraver who designed the original Yuan Shirkai dollar molds in 1914. He made a tiny handful of test strikes with his signature hidden on the coin. Only a few of these, signed edition, sample coins ever existed. Most collectors go their entire lives without even seeing one. Market value, anywhere from several $100,000 to over $1 million yuan, depending on condition. And this one? Flawless. Perfect patina, natural wear, deep engraving, intact signature mark. I'm rich. Again. Still. More. My brain screamed while my hands trembled. Oli Jangwen, dear Uncle Li, your shop really did have a hidden treasure. You sat on it for years, sold it to me for 200 yuan, and now I was holding something worth potentially $1 million. Life comes at you fast, Uncle. I was basking in the warm glow of yet another ridiculous windfall when, well. You little liar. You even cheat your own uncle. That brush holder did have treasure inside. I went rigid. Full ice down the spine reaction. Bai Bingbing was standing in the doorway. The door was cracked open. She'd been watching me pry open the false bottom and pull out the coin. She'd seen everything. She pushed the door wide open and walked in like a prosecutor entering a courtroom. Silver heels clicking, expensive perfume leading the charge, eyes locked on the evidence in my hand. Those cold, starry eyes stared at the silver dollar, then slowly traveled up to my face. No expression. Just explain. Now. This? I waved the coin casually, channeling every ounce of shamelessness in my body. Just a regular old silver coin. Not worth much. I even tossed it in the air and caught it. Casual. Breezy. Nothing to see here. Not worth much? She stepped closer and extended her porcelain-perfect hand. Let me see. I hesitated, but handed it over. She held it up to the window light, studied the surface, ran her finger across the portrait, and stopped right on the LG mark. Then she pulled out her phone, typed for 30 seconds, and looked back at me with an expression that said, "Nice try, idiot." She turned the phone around. Wikipedia article. Yuan Shikai signed edition sample coin, complete with descriptions of the LG signature mark, rarity notes, and estimated values. Don't try to fool me, she said coolly. This is a Republic Year 3 signed edition sample coin. The mark right here matches. These are extremely rare. She paused for maximum dramatic impact. Worth hundreds of thousands. Wifey, you're really smart, I said weakly. This woman had identified a numismatic rarity using Google in under a minute. I was simultaneously impressed and terrified. Who is your wifey? She snapped, cheeks going pink, but notably, with about 40% less fury than this morning's version of the same protest. The trajectory was clear. At this rate, she'd stop objecting entirely by Thursday. She handed the coin back, looking at me with an expression I couldn't fully decode. Part amazement, part frustration on behalf of her uncle, part something else entirely. You really just found another hidden treasure? My uncle is going to be sick when he finds out. Poor Uncle Lee. First the Buddha, now the brush holder. The man was going to need therapy. Then an idea hit me. A beautiful, calculated, zero-risk idea. I stepped forward, placed the coin gently in my palm, and offered it to her with my most sincere expression. Wifey, if you like it. It's yours. A gift, now. Let me explain the genius here. This coin was worth close to 1,000,000 yuan. Bai Bingbing was proud, independent, and would never accept something this expensive from a man she'd known for 2 days. So by offering it, I'd lose nothing but gain massive relationship points. All the generosity credit, zero actual cost. I'm not just handsome. I'm strategic. She froze. A blush, a real blush, not just pink ear tips, but actual roses blooming across those porcelain cheeks, spread slowly across her face like watercolor on white paper. Even her earlobes turned red. She lowered her eyes, those impossibly long lashes casting shadows, and stared at the coin sitting in my palm. Then she looked up at me with those winter star eyes and said, very quietly, with the tiniest hint of mischief, I do like it very much. Wait. That wasn't in the script. She was supposed to refuse. Politely but firmly decline. Maintain her Ice Queen honor. Not look at me with those playful eyes and basically say yes. Was she calling my bluff? Okay. No panic. A man doesn't back down. Even if his free generosity play just turned into an actual 1,000,000 yuan donation. I reached over, took her hand, her beautiful, delicate, jade-smooth hand that smelled faintly of expensive things, and placed the coin in her palm. Then it's yours. Her eyes went wide. The blush deepened from romantic sunset to active volcano. She stared at the coin in her hand, then at me, then at the coin again. A nearly 1,000,000 yuan silver dollar. Just given to her, like it was a stick of gum. Is he serious? Does he actually like me? Who just gives someone something worth this much? I could see every question scrolling across her face in real time. And honestly, looking at her standing there in my study, bathed in afternoon light, cheeks flushed, eyes sparkling with genuine surprise for maybe the first time in years, that Ice Queen armor cracked just a little more. I realized something. Even if she kept it, it was worth every single yuan. Some investments pay dividends you can't put in a bank. Now here's the thing nobody knew about Bai Bingbing, including Bai Bingbing herself. She'd spent her entire adult life convinced she had manphobia. Every time a guy so much as shook her hand at a business event or accidentally brushed her arm in a crowd, her skin would crawl and her brain would slam up ice walls so thick you could have stored frozen fish behind them. She genuinely believed she was biologically incapable of tolerating male contact. It wasn't an act. She really thought something was wired differently in her brain. But when I grabbed her hand to give her the coin, nothing. No disgust. No ice walls. Instead, and I could see this in her eyes even though she was trying desperately to hide it, a tiny electric warmth traveled from her fingertips up her arm and knocked gently on her heart's front door. Her entire self-diagnosis just collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. Why would you give me something worth nearly 1,000,000? She asked, and her voice had changed. The ice was gone. Not melted, evaporated. Replaced by something soft and warm that she probably hadn't heard come out of her own mouth in years. Because you brought me to that shop, so you deserve half the credit, I said. Then I went full send. Also because you're my goddess. I really, truly like you. I dream about you. In my heart, you really are my wife. Her face went from light blush 2. Sunrise over a snow mountain. Absolutely stunning. The most beautiful embarrassment in human history. Here was this woman who'd been worshipped by millions, chased by billionaires, photographed by every magazine on the planet. And she was standing in my little study, blushing like a schoolgirl because a broke-turned-rich treasure hunter told her he dreamed about her. It's too valuable. I can't accept this. She gently took my hand, her touching me this time, placed the coin back in my palm, and closed my fingers around it. Her touch was soft, deliberate, and infinitely more intimate than any handshake she'd ever endured. Finding it, recognizing it, getting it, that was all your skill and luck. It belongs entirely to you. I did my best, heartbroken puppy, face while internally doing a fist pump. Exactly as predicted. She returned it. I got all the generosity credit and kept the coin and got to hold her hand twice. Strategic. Genius. Flawless. But then she added something unexpected. Right now, I don't want to be in a relationship, she said it quietly, like a feather brushing across a heartstring. My brain parsed this at superhuman speed. She said, right now, not, never, not with you, not, I'd rather date a cactus. Right now, meant there existed a future in which she might. And the fact that she felt the need to explain herself, to me, a guy she'd tried to hospitalize 6 hours ago, meant she was already thinking about it. The ice wasn't just cracking anymore. Spring was coming. And that's when my courage inflated to roughly 10,000 times its normal size, and I did something that either made me the bravest man alive or the stupidest. I stepped forward, opened my arms, and hugged her. Just wrapped her up, pulled her into my chest, held on tight. She was softer than I'd imagined, and believe me, I'd imagined extensively, but also firm, athletic, shaped by years of dance and training. Her perfume engulfed me completely, cold and sweet and intoxicating, like falling into a beautiful frozen dream. I buried my face in her hair and whispered, "Bing bing. Wifey, I really, really like you." She turned to stone. Complete system shut down. Brain, offline. Motor functions, suspended. Every experience she'd accumulated in 20-plus years of being an untouchable ice queen had not prepared her for this moment. He's hugging me. A man is hugging me. I said one ambiguous sentence, and he hugged me. The audacity. The absolute nerve. But here was the plot twist that rewrote her entire understanding of herself. She didn't hate it. She didn't feel disgusted. She didn't feel angry. She didn't feel her skin crawling or her brain slamming up barriers. She felt warm, safe. His arms were strong, but not rough. His chest was broad and steady. His heartbeat thumped through his shirt, calm, solid, reliable. And her own heart? Going absolutely berserk, pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Beating faster than it ever had during any runway walk, any photo shoot, any moment in her entire carefully controlled life. I don't have manphobia, she realized, and the revelation nearly knocked her off her heels. I just hadn't met the right man. A guy who could fight like a war god, who could find treasure like he had X-ray vision, who was handsome in that rugged, sharp-jawed way she apparently liked very much, who was simultaneously confident and goofy, who'd just try to give her something worth $1,000,000 like it was a candy bar. That was apparently her type. She just hadn't known because this specific combination of human had never existed before. For about 3 beautiful seconds, she melted. Completely. The Ice Queen dissolved into a warm, flustered, secretly thrilled girl being held by someone she was rapidly developing feelings for. Then her pride rebooted.